actually start the stream when we did. So
it's like 4 a.m. in Joey's time zone in his defense.
yeah, it's 8:30 in the morning, and the Seahawks just won the Super Bowl, so you can imagine it was a bit of a rowdy time on the Seattle streets last night. I'm not saying I was in rowdy stuff. I'm just saying it was hard to fall asleep to that noise. A little quiet, but we can hear you. All right, I'll up my input a little bit. Thank you for the update there. Seahawks, yeah. All right. Well, yeah. You know, as usual, I say as usual, we don't stream all that often, but you know, on the times that there are updates, it's nice to kind of touch base with some folks, and so I guess sort of react to everything. But we do typically want to, you know, let time for people to come in and say hi, get gathered before we get into the real meat of it. But I hope everyone's having a nice beginning to their Monday. Kind of an interesting little update that happened here.
Yeah, for some reason, actually, I thought the announcement was tomorrow. So I'm like, oh, I'll just do my Monday stuff. And they're like, oh, wait, that's like in an hour. Never mind. I need to be prepared for this.
Yeah.
And overall, I guess the announcements feel, I was expecting something larger. I don't know why I was expecting that. I don't think I have any reason for that. I was just thinking we were going to get a handful of unbans or bans or changes more than we got, I guess.
Thought that would be bigger than it is.
I definitely thought we were going to get way more than we actually did.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's very fair. Someone asked if they can type spoilers in here. The announcement is live. We've got it up here as well.
Yeah, announcements are live.
So yeah, talk away. Absolutely. We're just, you know, we figure we usually let some people get trickling in before we get into like real meat of anything. So we're just gonna hang out for a little bit before we ourselves dive in. But in the chat, absolutely, light it up. A nothing sandwich for the BNR. That's a funny way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. And at this point, like, man, they've trimmed so much fat off these lists. Like, I guess would be unrealistic to expect anything seismic unless it was a large change to the system overall or something. Or like the hybrid mana change. I felt like they might actually go through with that.
Yeah.
Despite my feeling, and maybe this isn't correct, I can't quantify this. I felt like the community pushed back more than they expected. That's maybe just my perception, but I felt like generally speaking, people weren't for that, and I think that caught them off guard. Maybe I'm wrong there. That's just my guess.
I haven't been able to fully watch too much of Gavin's video yet, because again, we accidentally started this a little bit before. So as we were getting set up, I was going to like continue to listen to it. But I think he generally says something to that effect, Dana, that he expected it to be like pretty firmly one or pretty firmly the other. And even the data that he started pulling with a couple of other things as well. Like internal insights, I guess, in Wizards, like, oh, it was a pretty even split. And the community has, even like folks on the panel, I guess, were like back and then forth and then back again. We have a pretty firm feeling from what I understand of the three of us, and people have seen my video about it maybe as well. So like that's where we fall, but it does seem like community-wide wise it is wishy-washy, which I'm glad to see meant that they didn't go, because I fully was kind of the opinion that like they can do whatever they want and they would do whatever they want. That felt to me
right
like kind of the tone. So I'm glad to see that no update there is a good update there.
That tone, I don't think did them any favors either.
I agree. Yeah.
For what it's worth.
Yes. Yeah. Rob the Princess, I think that makes sense. The pushback on hybrid was technically in the minority, but still too many people for them to feel good about it. Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm glad to see that they did not feel good about that based off of that, because I could see a world in which they ignored it. I think there are plenty of games that have operated that way. So I'm glad that this one didn't.
Literally anything Blizzard does.
I mean,
literally anything.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to name names, but I love that. I like Farewell being a game changer, immediately followed by people being like, Farewell being a game changer feels off. That one feels more divisive. That's like the hybrid mana of game changer editions.
That's the part of the announcement. Like, well, granted, it's really easy to miss the announcement because it's a separate article and it's a separate announcement.
Yeah.
Which, like, logistically, that does make sense.
Yeah, it's a little strange.
But also, I don't know, like the people that hate not game changers, hate Farewell, really freaking hate Farewell.
Yeah.
And so like having it as a game changer, I think it's fine. Like there's so many other cards that I think are worth getting worked up about than Farewell.
So the thing about Farewell that stands out to me is it's definitely a card I have seen that gets used. I'm trying to think how to phrase this diplomatically. Poorly, in ways that I don't see a lot of other cards get used that poorly. In ways that, like, again, I wouldn't say ruin the table, but like I've seen plenty of, very rarely do I see a Wrath of God come down and you're like, all right, man, why are you wasting our time with that? Or even if the person does it at an opportune moment, you can come back from it. I've seen a lot of Farewells come down where you're like, all right, well, you're not going to come back. All you've done is add 15 minutes to this game. And the person who's drawn, the most cards is going to rebuild faster and still win. Like, that's the thing with Farewell that annoys me is I do see it get used poorly in ways that don't advance the game state. And that's why I'm comfortable with it becoming a game changer. Additionally, I kind of have bias against the card just because it's such a skip. It's like so much better than the alternatives. And I don't like that design, but that's not a reason to make it a game changer, I guess.
I don't think it should be banned. I know a lot of people wanted it actually like hard banned out.
Yeah,
I think that's a little extreme.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
But like it functionally does a lot of the same things that some of these other cards that are game changers do, like World Fire, like Sway the Stars, those types of cards. And so like if you're looking at what
World Fire is not a game changer anymore, right?
Well, it was. I mean, it was banned for a long time.
Oh, it was banned though. I see what you mean.
What I'm saying. So like, what it does functionally to a game, like I think it is worthy of a game changer. Like, granted, like it dies to a Spell Pierce,
right?
But like that's the Playmore removal things. Like that's kind of a disingenuous argument.
Yeah, the difference between like a World Fire and Farewell is because you're not accidentally, for the most part, putting it in World Fire or putting World Fire in a deck. Like if you're building a World Fire deck, you're specifically building around that and you're looking to do something with World Fire. Whereas like you see Farewell just show up because someone cracked one and then they use it in a manner that
because they put it in a Precon.
They put it in multiple Precons.
Yeah.
They put it in the Titas deck and they put it in the Doctor Who deck and like they put it in Precons before, which I've asked designers about and like why, and they're like tight-lipped because of course, but it feels like to me a thing that they regret maybe. It feels weird to me because it's in Precons. I understand though, like in terms of cards that are nice to have a heads up about, it falls into that description. But I also agree with you, Matt, that like there are many other things I would have put above this on my own personal list, but I'm not mad, but it does feel a little bit
I don't know. I also think like
curious.
the whole like we shouldn't put game changers in Precons. Let people play powerful cards, and like putting them in a Precon I don't think is a problem.
No, I agree with that.
Especially since like they reinforced at the last announcement we had back in October that like that was like a point of emphasis they had was bracket 2 does not mean only Precons. Like this is a Precon level. Like Precons can be all across the board. And I want to like throw away the argument that like just because a card is in a Precon doesn't mean it should not be a game changer.
Seaborn Muse was in a Precon at one point, right? Like there's historical precedent.
The Faldorn Precon had game changers. It had Jessica's Will.
Yeah. There are some that I feel like would not be appropriate necessarily. But I mean, Teferi's Protection came from a Precon, yada yada.
Right. So one thing I will note here, and this might impact one of the things I'm going to say, or I've never voiced this, I don't think, particularly on a podcast or anything. So my view of how the rules committee should function.
I think you have said this. I feel like I know what you're about to say. Maybe.
They should be kind of parents. And they should look at and this sounds paternalistic, and I'm not. I don't mean this in an insulting way. They should function as parents, and they should look at us like children with poor impulse control, and their job is to keep us from making bad decisions, and that's what I think the Farewell game changer is. It's keeping you from making that bad decision of putting it in a bracket 2 deck and using it poorly. It's going to make you like have to think, do I want this in my deck, and make those specific choices. So that's why I particularly like it. Okay. That's probably a simplification of the rules committee job, but like I do think that's to a degree how they should function, is like to keep us from making decisions that hurt ourselves a little bit.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean in terms of when you give the audience what they want, that's how you get fan service, and fan service doesn't make for good movies.
Yeah.
So I understand like that as a metaphor. The metaphor of the approach, I hope, is making sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
like players are pretty bad with impulse control, but like also EDH Rec isn't making you play. Like, and all these resources out there, like nobody's making you play these cards. Like that's what players are choosing to do themselves. No, we're just holding up a mirror and telling people what they are already doing.
Sure. New shirt idea. Scryfall made me do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's also though the problem of that, like, you know, no one's forcing you to play Ristic Study, you know, right? It's an annoying card. But it's also one of those things I feel like, okay, yes, it's a super annoying card, but if everyone in my meta is playing Ristic Study, then all I'm doing is hurting myself by not playing it. So at some point there does need to be a rules committee intervention and make it a game changer. So you have to make hard choices if you want to run Ristic Study or whatever it is. So yes, you don't have to run any of these cards that are annoying or too powerful or however you want to classify them. But you also like hate to just get rolled every game, and at some point you do need to fight fire with fire, and I think that's where the bracket system works nicely, as it makes people make hard choices.
There's something ironic about the farewell as a game changer thing to me, sort of on two levels, and I hope this is a half-formed thought, so apologies everyone. The Seahawks just won and it's 8 a.m. for me, so if I'm addled, I apologize. One of them feels to me like farewell almost kind of goes to a bracket 4 jail as a result of this, to borrow a term from my straight and therefore evil twin Malthound. Like if I have a bracket 3 deck and I'm playing white, I don't think farewell is ever going to take one of my card slots, you know?
Sure.
Which means the place that it is suddenly, quote, appropriate to play it is the place where I'm not wanting to play it, because I'd rather play Smothering Tithe than Tef Pro, and if I'm in another color, like it just immediately feels like, all right, cool, so it has been boosted to this level that I then no longer want to see at that level and maybe won't see at that level. There's a strangeness about that for me.
Good point. Yeah, there's no situation where I'm going to choose a better austere command over running Teferi's Protection.
Yeah, so there's something strange about that to me. But then the other kind of ironic thing about it is that Farewell is exactly the type of card I want to exist to deal with the things that are bracket 3 level. So like it feels like it got to being bracket 3 because of all of the other things at bracket 3. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. Maybe it doesn't, but there's just something sort of recursive or Ouroboros about it going there, which is why it wasn't on my list personally.
Ouroboros is that card from
yeah, Ouroboros is also a thing. It's a different thing.
Well, and also
anyway,
like maybe at some point, as if more and more cards drift onto the game changer list, maybe they are going to have to look at expanding. Like maybe bracket 3 becomes 4 cards or something. Who knows?
Oh, I hope not. I've done a whole video about that. If people want to check that out, I've done a video about the ratios of things once the nation changes and added more stuff to the list.
Yeah, I see people in chat talking about how like the announcement should have been bigger. Like I think Commander's in like a fine spot where like we don't need big announcements anymore. Like talk about what needs to be talked about, but like I don't think.
Yeah, we're out of big announcements.
Yeah, like why, I don't. You know, if they're feeling obligated to make changes, that's a bad sign.
Tiny tweaks is a sign of a ship that's going in the right direction, I would say. You make minor adjustments to your course as opposed to major swings by several degrees, because then that indicates that the ship was like way off base. And so if things are going
and that's why they said that hybrid mana isn't changing, because like it's so split. They don't want to make a change for the sake of making a change.
Yeah.
Met FTV, I feel like they do kind of let folks know what their what they're considering. They're mentioning, as we're scrolling past right now.
Yeah, you're literally showing it on the screen.
Some of the stuff that they didn't ban, but they thought about it. They passed by Sundering Titan, and I guess this kind of like opens up to. We actually haven't mentioned Biorhythm just yet, but since we passed by Sundering Titan, then that kind of came up here. Sundering Titan is one that I'm just like, I feel like that automatically goes into bracket 4 if it's unbanned, so it feels safe to me to unban. So I'm surprised not to have seen that one unbanned, I suppose, because I feel like it is just auto relegated. But that's just me.
Well, I also wonder if there isn't a conscious effort to trickle these out. Like, oh, at some point Southern Titan will be fine because of this, but we're going to do, we don't want to unban 5 of these cards at once, so we're going to do Worldfire, and then we're going to do Biorhythm, then we're going to do Thundering Titan, then we're going to do whatever,
Well, and two, like there's something to be said, like when you make too many changes all at once and there are issues, you don't know which change caused the issue.
Slowly change the variables.
You have to do a lot of backtracking, and so doing it slow. Like Sheldon said this, Gavin has said this, and it's one of the reasons that I have a lot of confidence in what they're doing right now. Is Commander has never moved quickly. We can take it slow. We can be slow and deliberate with how we treat the format, and that's how it needs to stay. So like making the format suddenly move really quickly and evolve, like with hybrid mana, that's a problem. That's where people start to lose track of what's going on. That's where you're gonna have a lot of confusion at events. Like it should be a slow evolving format.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So we haven't mentioned the unbans yet, and I guess I'm actually scrolling through the wrong article.
Yeah, we haven't explicitly said what all happened.
Yeah. So Biorhythm, unbanned, turned in a game changer. Lutri, unbanned as companion, not a game changer. Which,
No, banned as companion.
Right, the opposite of what, It's 4:30 in a warehouse. No, sorry, yeah. Still banned as a companion, but unbanned in the 99. That one.
There it is.
And then Farewell added as a game changer. That's the thing. So Biorhythm unbanned. Do we have that on our bingo cards this year?
I mean, I'm not surprised because they've been unbanning a lot of these like super expensive spells that like
the brackets not do anything. The brackets enabled you to unban those kind of spells.
Yeah.
And are there people that are going to do float mana, cast Biorhythm, set their life to whatever, or board wipe, cast a Llanowar Elf, cast Biorhythm or something, like sure. Like there's a lot of mana and there's a lot of ways to do things that are similarly powerful, and to do that you're building a deck that's built to do that, and like you're not accidentally stumbling across that. The experience. I just don't think it's going to be an issue.
Yeah, chat. I just linked an article that we put out on EDH Rec a few minutes ago. I mean, like, because there are 2 articles. We summed it up in one article for you. You're welcome.
The 2 articles thing is kind of crazy to me. It feels
that's the biggest surprise to me, is like how logistically they just put 2 like separate articles out, and everybody's missing the farewell part.
I mean, but between the 3 of us, we are probably this calendar year going to play 600 to 700 games of Commander, and I would dare say in none of those games will we see a Biorhythm get cast.
I hope so. This is actually one that I do disagree with the panel on. I think that the unbanning of Coalition Victory made a lot of sense as like make this a game changer, heads up type of card, and Biorhythm as a, like, if it's stated as a heads up before a bracket 3 game, is the kind of thing like, okay, I can see it coming. I still don't like the play patterns that it creates. I'm hoping that it goes the way of a Sway of the Stars thing, where everyone gets super bored of it. Like, Coalition Victory hasn't made an issue, but Coalition Victory being a 5-color card is a very different thing to Biorhythm being just a green card. I'm hoping that I'm wrong here, but this is one that we accept that there is some risk here. This one felt to me like a risky play. I hope it pays off for them, but it's a risk that I was not comfortable with. And
why do you need Coalition Victory when every single 5-color commander that designed Prince is just an I win condition all by itself in the command zone?
How do you really feel that?
Yeah, I'm not worried about it. Like, and like I was pretty nervous. Like a year ago and change, I was saying that Coalition Victory like probably will never get unbanned. Coalition Victory has done effectively nothing.
Right.
Sway of the Stars has done effectively nothing. All these cards that like we all were super scared of a year and change ago, I haven't seen, and I've been playing a lot more Commander lately, even too, like trying to like go to different stores and get a feel for not just one play group, nobody cares. Like, these cards have made zero impact in so many different situations.
Yeah, and I think there's an element of that. There's an element of that too, where I think people like to win games in a way that like makes them look smart or clever or however you want to phrase that. And I feel like those cards don't like give you that, like don't make you feel that way. And there's a ton of reasons they don't see play beyond that. But yeah, I think the same will happen with Biorhythm. It's just not going to be a thing, I don't think.
Someone saying not me slotting Biorhythm into a Tali. That's exactly the thing that I'm like, oh god, you know.
But if you're playing like Flip a Tali, you're just playing on a power level in a bracket, and like there's already so many busted things moving in that deck. Who cares?
Flip a Tali is the kind of thing that seems hard pressed to ever be called a bracket too. I understand that for sure.
Like
for sure, I understand you.
You know.
Yeah. No, I again hope that I'm wrong here, but it's one that they acknowledge it's a risk. It's a risk that I personally wouldn't have taken. That's all I wanted to say about it. Lutri the Spell Chaser selling out before your eyes. Old word, Mike Mac. I am not surprised to hear that.
I mean, Lutri. This was the thing that should have happened with Lutri, and I believe we all commented on this way back in the day. This is what they should have done from the get-go. It's just made it not legal as a companion, and that solves every problem.
The concern around it was whether it creates confusion to open that door as banned as companion or banned as commander, because that has caused confusion in the past because of the rate of information being slow to get out there. Maybe the rate of information is a different world now, and all that, but like there was no longer a banned as commander for like years, and people still thought that banned as commander was a thing. That I think was sort of the trepidation around like, do we make banned as specific thing, banned as X, banned as Y? And that's kind of the, I don't know, in terms of like, hey, they had 2 articles coming out today to describe today's updates. That banned as one thing but not as another is sort of the 2 articles version of that on the banned list. And so that potential miscommunication opportunity is, I think, what they were trying to avoid. And clearly they're just like, you know, just make it this and we'll deal with it. Seems to be attitude, I suppose. Always been at work.
Yeah, Quist, like I agree. Like so many of these cards are like end up being nothing burgers compared to just power creep in general. Like,
sure,
we have 4 mana spells that are doing more than 6 mana spells, you know, before Fire Design started. It's like that's what I think is going to change the format more than anything. Like even more than like EDH Rec. Like everybody wants to say like EDH Rec is homogenizing the format. Like Wizards of the Coast is homogenizing the format so much faster than any resource and perfect information ever could. Yeah. So like I just want to throw that out there. Like the design direction that cards have been taken, that's the real bugaboo right there.
Which is why I think it's all the more reason that the fast mana cards are going to stay banned or should stay banned. The Lotuses, the Crypts, because as the format's gotten faster, we don't need to reward that even more, I don't think.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of folks were wondering about those. I still see plenty of discussion on them, but it just feels too... That's a risk that they don't want to bet on either, and it doesn't feel necessary. Like, I understand letting Biorhythm out of jail. If I wouldn't have made that decision, I understand it. To be honest, actually, I anticipated that Iona would have been let out of jail, because Iona as like a bracket 3 heads up feels like, oh, if I know that's a game changer and know to expect that, I feel like a bracket 3 area would probably be able to still deal with it compared to the bracket 2 area. I kind of like lost my own train of thought there, so apologies.
So I might get to fill in on it. So pre-bracket system, in pre-ban even, so we're talking like 5 years ago, I would occasionally run into Iona. Iona's getting played not as a commander, but like in the 99 of very casual decks. Because number one, there was just less good angels then. We'd be like, oh, this cool angel, I can shut a color down, cool. And they'd put it in their deck and like not think about the fact that it's going to occasionally just shut someone's entire deck off. So like it would occasionally show up in decks unintentionally. As a bracket card, that eliminates that.
Yeah.
It's not going to accidentally show up in bracket 2 in a place where someone doesn't really think it through. They're like, oh, cool angel, put it in my cool angel deck.
Thank you. Yeah.
The other problem with that, though, is then it's going to get, like, are you going to run it in your bracket 3 angel deck over Tavari's Protection or Farewell or whatever? No. So it gets relegated to bracket 4 where it's not good enough. So it functionally is banned anyway. So I could see it get up.
So Meowshine, like, I don't think Lutri is a bad card. It's just your second copy of Dualcaster Mage where you want it. That's it. Like, Dualcaster Mage just isn't played all that often. Like, in the article that we put out on EDH Rec, I kind of drew some lines on like where but besides like outside the Otter decks, which is very obvious, but there's also like 7 of those decks anyways. So, but like you have like Firelord Azula, which sure, but then like after that it goes down quite a bit. Like Inala decks don't care because Lutri's not a wizard, so you can't copy it, stuff like that. There's not a ton of homes because a lot of the decks that are playing Dualcaster Mage are Rakdos colored. Not a whole bunch of them are playing the blue as well because blue has just better options.
Oh no, I see what you mean. Yeah, I see what you mean. Sorry.
Yeah, they don't include the blue in there. There's a few of the Grixis colored ones, but they're not playing Dualcaster Mage, so why are they going to play Lutri? So like I don't think that Lutri's a bad card. It does something cool that people would like to do, but there's just better ways to do that.
The problem with Lutri is 100% or 99.9% the fact that it gives you a free card in decks running blue and red.
That is the appeal, and that's why it had to be restricted.
Yeah. And Dana, you helped me connect the dots that I was trying to thread together from earlier. The Biorhythm, and like I had gotten onto a cul-de-sac about Iona as well. Like, there's a heads up about them that makes, like, in the bracket 3 area can make it feel appropriate. Like, you won't be completely blindsided, and therefore you know to be prepared, I guess, and that like kind of helps to stave off some of the bad reactions of those cards. I don't feel that way about the fast mana that we've been talking about earlier. That was the thread I was trying to connect. Yeah. It's not as it's a risk for the fast mana because just like even if I know that it's there, preparing for that type of game is a different caliber than those cards.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I was trying to. So I wanted to finish my thought before So anyway,
I would have much more critical words about them on the game. Is much better with Crypt and Jewel Lotus and Dockside Band. It is 100%. And if you need those cards to win games, get good. Like seriously, like those cards exist. Particularly like I'm ignoring CEDH. That's a different deal. But sub CEDH, fast mana is for people who need to win the game before anyone can respond. And you should maybe try to be able to win games when you have opponents versus winning games before you have opponents. And I 100% believe that. I'm glad those cards are banned and they should stay banned. And that's not going to be a take that some people like, but like I'm fine with that's what I believe.
I'm just catching up with someone in chat. Here's a free bad card like Garuda or Karuga. Garuda and Karuga aren't completely 100% free based off of the rules of the format. You still have to make concessions during the deck building process.
There's restrictions.
That's a false equivalency there. So anyway.
And I play Sol Ring, but like everyone plays Sol Ring. Everyone's on the Sol Ring is a weird thing, and I'd be fine with Sol Ring being gone too. Sol Ring's the weird exception. Yeah, I'd be fine with it. Yeah, if they wanted to ban it, I'm totally down for that. But, and I know I've said this before, Sol Ring is that one weird thing. Everyone has a Sol Ring. Everyone occasionally can live the dream and like top deck that Sol Ring and have a good game. And it absolutely is going to screw things up when you are the person that does it. But everyone has an equal chance to do it. It's a $1.50 card. It's in every single deck. It's this weird thing that exists in the format. To use a sports analogy that I've definitely used before, it's the green monster in Fenway Park.
Right.
Which if you don't know baseball, it's this giant wall in left field that changes how baseball kind of gets played because it's home runs are different there and everything. You wouldn't want a baseball stadium where you had 15 of those different weird dimensions and loops and things because that would make a different game. But having one is kind of cool.
See, I actually think that like the green monster is for Commander. I think that's color identity. I think that's like the thing that like every stadium has that like a little thing about it. I think that's color identity for Commander.
But it's
I'm glad which is why I'm very glad that the hybrid mana rule didn't change
for sure.
Because I think that it takes away that and like pushes it more towards 60 card formats where like there are no restrictions.
Yeah, it keeps Commander weird, which I like.
I love this comment by a name Chris X Tiz. I think I'm certainly mispronouncing it. I can't wait to rift in response to a Biorhythm. And to be honest, that comment,
that's what Bracket 4 is all about.
Yeah, that comment right there makes me feel a lot better about it being a bracket 3 only card. Of like, yeah, okay, Biorhythm that comes with the expectation of risk. That feels like a good check and balance against the play patterns that I dislike about that card. I still feel as though, like, if I'm the person who was, just playing a regular game, and then someone else casts Biorhythm, like Matt casts Biorhythm, and then Dana casts Cyclonic Rift in response, I still feel a little bit like, cool, great, I guess, about that entire interaction as the bystander.
Collateral damage there,
right? But the collateral damage is the thing I don't like about the card. But that comment does make me feel.
Biorhythm, I'm gonna Teferi's Protection. Okay, bye.
Yes, yeah. So there's, oop, that's an alarm. Sorry about that. But yeah, like Biorhythm is not a simply blind play kind of card, and that could be a perfect counterweight to it. So that makes me feel a lot better. I appreciate that comment.
Yeah, Dana, you got a comment. You don't buy the argument Jeweled Lotus enabling high CMC commanders, making them more playable in bracket 3, bracket 4. I mean,
no. I mean, conceivably, sure, but it just all it does is make really good 5 mana or 4 mana commanders even better.
Well, the problem is that mono blue Urza can use it too, right?
Like it doesn't suddenly make people start playing Bishkal Blood Arbiter.
I still think that they're viable in bracket 3 and 4.
Sure.
Like I'm playing Alexios CEDH. It's fine because I play Ancient Tomb as well, and I play Lotus Petal, and like you have other ways of getting fast mana than just Jeweled Lotus.
One of my newest decks isn't.
I have a Noctis deck that's bracket 4, and like that has 0 problems getting Noctis out early because I just play all the other fast mana. Like it diminishes the rest of the fast mana that still exists by saying like you need a Jeweled Lotus.
My most recent. I'll go real quick. Sorry. My most recent deck is the 8 mana Avatar Kyoshi, and she's winning a lot. She's doing perfectly good for herself.
Yeah.
And so the Lotus did not necessarily was not a requirement for that. I guess you could say.
Heaven forbid you have challenges that you have to go through in order to
get a powerful effect in an 8 mana commander. Yeah.
Well, in the reality is most people don't want those challenges based on the most popular commanders. I mean,
the secret layer alarm is cursed.
But you know what, Dana? You don't get to be a hipster without those super popular commanders, do you?
Absolutely, and there's nothing wrong with that either. Like I'm so judgmental. I am such a judgmental bitch.
Dana, we're live.
I'm not going to deny that I am, but there's also nothing wrong with it. Like if everyone's doing that, if everyone likes playing, like you had a long day at work and you just want to sit down and like play a commander that's got everything baked in, and who cares, right? Like I'm judgmental about it, but like I shouldn't be. It's a game. Enjoy what you enjoy.
Real quick, Itachi Uchiha. I am in the process of making a video about this. I'm not using any land searching effects in that deck anymore. Just as a heads up on that, a lot of the deck is now just mana rocks to ramp that things out. So it isn't necessarily just the green ramp. I'll make a proper video about that, but I've removed shuffling from all of my decks this year because I'm just kind of bored of it. So it's not doing the landfall searching in there, but I'll hinting at a thing in the future more than that.
And you added 100 cards to all your decks.
Not all of them. I do still have Baba as 200 though, because it was fun. It was really fun.
I didn't keep Veil at 200, but I kept the cards that I took out in a separate deck box. So if I am in the mood, I can just shuffle them back in and play it as a 200 card deck again.
Nice. That's really fun. I am kind of curious. Were there other things that we thought might be? Like I've seen a lot of talk about like, my Ristic study. I would have loved to see stuff about. Was there even, 1 or 2 other cards that you had anticipated to see in the announcements today at all?
I was fully expecting a Ristic study ban.
Really? Okay.
Yep, I thought it was going to happen. Okay. And a few my friends that play CDH have talked about running things like copy enchantment and stuff in those decks, in large part to copy Ristic study, and that feels like unhealthy play patterns. I know they don't want to do things for CDH in particular, but once you get to the point where you're running clone effects just to copy other people's Ristic studies, that feels like a problem. And it's such an annoying card. And like, there are so many reasons to have banned it and very it's not like it's an iconic part of the format, like maybe Soul Ring or something. I think there's a lot of reasons to remove it, not a lot of, and I thought they might pull the trigger on it, but they didn't. So, you know, and it, from their description in the article, it sounds like they didn't have a lot of demand to do that. So it looks like it's going to stick around.
I was not expecting anything. No
changes.
Nothing major. I was really hoping that we wouldn't have changes to the hybrid mana. So like I was very happy to see that non-change.
Yeah.
I think that causes a lot more confusion. That's a much bigger change than I think a lot of players who want it to happen comprehend and like understand like the repercussions of. Especially like, and also like I want to stand up for the developers of all these tools like EDH Rec and Architect and Scryfall, whatever. It's a nightmare. The way that like all these databases are constructed, it's a freaking nightmare. So that like we'd have had to know about that like 2 months ago in order to like make all the changes appropriate and make sure that like when the button happens, we're ready to go. Because like when the brackets, for people that don't know, like we got to work with Wizards behind the scenes ahead of the brackets because, as Gavin said, like we wanted to make sure all the community tools that they use, like the deck builders, like EDH Rec, like Scryfall, when we made this announcement, we wanted everything to like happen in real time. So we say like, okay, here's the new system, and everybody to accommodate that. That alone, constructing the bracket system on all these deck builders and everything, took about 2 months worth of labor. And that's with everybody kind of working together to like make sure here's how we're doing it, here's what we're going to roll out. Everybody agrees that like changing the fundamental rules of color identity to Commander would have been a bigger impact than making brackets, because that's changing everything that exists currently and making sure that the way that things talk together. So like it would have been such a nightmare for the hybrid mana to change. I'm very glad for everybody's sanity on our end that they did not make that change.
Like
that
even just programming that in Scryfall, would be like, oh, hybrid.
Scryfall people I know would have gone a little crazy. I know that all of our devs on EDH Rec, they're very glad.
If it would be a massive change, so folks could run like 6 cards. I mean, that's
pretty much
really.
But like it causes so much hassle for so many people to happen. So I don't know. Like I'm glad that it's every time it's a small thing, it's a small thing. It's not if we had something on the scale of like the bracket announcements every 6 months, I would go crazy. And like people forget, like it's only been a year since brackets rolled out.
Yeah.
Like let's just enjoy what we have and like take small measured changes. Cause I don't know. I see a lot of people advocating for Primeval Titan. Like I love Primeval Titan. I wish that it was legal. I also can admit that like it's probably not the healthiest for the format.
I like what you said, Dana. It doesn't it may not break anything, but that doesn't mean it's good for us.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think that's a pretty succinct way to put it. The knock-on effects that it has on like the way that deck building is affected feels to me like not even sometimes the biggest sin of a card isn't even just the way that it manifests in gameplay. It's the way that it causes you to think about the game before you even reach the table.
I'm not going to see any biorhythms pop up, I don't think, at any point ever, maybe in games. If Primetime wasn't banned, I would see it in every other pod. And at no point at the end of that game would I be like, that game was actually pretty cool because of Primetime.
I also don't think that you'll say the game is cool because of Biorhythm. But
I'm never going to see it, so I don't have to worry about that.
I hope that's true. I hope
everyone would. Primetime would be in every effing green deck. Not everyone, but like it would show up in so many decks. People would have zero self-control. It would be the having chocolate cake for breakfast card for sure.
It's easy for me to convince myself not to play Biorhythm. It's hard for me to convince myself not to play Primetime. Yeah.
It's a Ristic selling problem. Like if everyone else around you's playing it, then you're like, well, I kind of have to now to keep up. You could of course just not play it, but like that feels bad too, to not play the card that everyone else is taking advantage of around you.
I have offered Gavin not just 1 but 2 of our daughter's college funds to unban Primetime, and he still hasn't done it. So if And granted, they're not big college funds, but
what?
Exactly. There was just a note in the comment. Prime time is in every green deck in Brawl. I don't play Brawl, but like, sure,
I believe that.
Absolutely see that.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
People will just have no self control over prime time, and that's part of their problem with it.
Well, and that kind of goes.
Itachi, you're right. We're not ramping at 6 mana. We're getting a Field of the Dead and a Glacial Chasm, or we're getting a Wasteland and a Strip Mine, and we already have our Ice Till Explorers out and stuff like that. Like, you're right. We're not ramping. We're finding
spells,
win conditions. We're homogenizing the format faster than EDH Rec ever could.
Yeah,
we're making sure that every Primeval time, because it's not you're just playing Primeval Titan, and this is kind of the thing where I came around with crop rotation being a game changer. It's not just you're playing Primeval Titan. You're playing Primeval Titan with Talon Gates of Madara. You're playing Primeval Titan with Wasteland, Field of the Dead, Strip Mine, like all the most powerful utility lands ever. And that's what you're doing with Primeval Titan. It's not just like because I used to be the same way. Like I just want to ramp. Like I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna get 2 lands, and now I just have more mana than you. That's not what people are doing. Thespian Stage Dark Depths. Oops. How did that Primeval Titan know that those were in the deck? Like that's what you're doing with Primeval Titan.
How did that Primeval Titan know it was in the deck? Is so funny.
Yeah, how did the Primeval Titan ever know that there was a Thespian Stage and a Dark Depths in this deck together?
What a clever giant.
And oh my goodness, my Ramen Up Excavator that we're still playing the Year of Our Lord Heliod 2026 can get that Dark Depths back.
There's a contrast between that and like some of the other stuff that I don't know. I think we'd mentioned like Iona and Sundering Titan. Sundering Titan was one of the cards that they had mentioned. There is this strange. I feel like a lot of the cards that become either unbanned or like in that game changer area have like this strange duality to them. One of them is like, yeah, they're miserable and no one enjoys it, and yet knowing that means that they're safe. And then there's this like everyone really wants to do it type of thing, which means that they're not. That lands them into the same conversation. That is always so funny about these types of conversations to me. Like we do end up talking about these cards in the same way, despite the fact that there is a branch of them that is just very funny to me.
So I feel way back when Paradox Engine got banned. My theory was that Paradox Engine was banned not so much because it was powerful, although it is, but because people didn't have any self-control over how to use when they use Paradox Engine. And I straight up then at some point in time after that asked Sheldon about that, and he's like, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like the main reason we banned Paradox Engine because people were playing in a deck they shouldn't be playing it and didn't know how to use it and would waste everyone's time. That's like he confirmed that that was their main driver for that at that point in time. Now that may have changed, but I don't think it would. If Paradox Engine wasn't banned, we'd see the same problem where you sit at a table and someone's like, I put Paradox Engine in all my decks and now I'm going to make every 5-minute turn into a 12-minute turn, but not actually advance my board state that much. There are cards that are like that. Like people just don't have the self-control to not do that, and versus something like Biorhythm or World Fire or Sway the Stars or whatever it is, where it's just not going to see play.
Real quick, Itachi Uchiha.
Jack Latham, yes, CEDH is being considered. They have multiple people on the Commander format panel for CEDH.
Which is why I thought Ristic might buy a ban. I thought they actually, that was, I thought, going to be the driver of that.
And real quick,
combined with the problem elsewhere.
Itachi Uchiha saying Elvish Reclaimer is stronger than Primetime, especially in bracket 4. I love that we disagree. We disagree very strongly.
Yeah. Very, very much.
I'm playing in the space, or I'm not even sure, is there a bracket 4 meta? I don't think so. Like CEDH.
I'm happy that I've actually got a group that I get to play bracket 4 a little bit more. And so I'm excited to see some of my numbers on those games go up this year. I've been really happy about that because it's been a while. My Conrad deck has just been rotting.
I've been having so much fun. Like it used to be my favorite space to play was like the Precons plus 10 cards space. Mm-hmm. The bracket, like bad bracket 4 bullshit has been so fun to play.
Sure. Like
just everybody like bust out like all the big powerful stuff and just like go ham on each other. It's been so much fun.
That's what's been interesting.
My buddy, our coworker Jeremy, who works over on Architect, like he and I have been on that train for like a good solid 6 months, and it's so fun. But like also, looking at those games, we're like, okay, yeah, we're playing bracket 4. Play all the game changers you want. I don't know how some of these cards make those games better, even though like we're intentionally playing like let's just play big powerful stuff.
Or like in the case of Joey's Conrad deck, or my Areki deck, where they're just too good for 3.
Yeah.
And that but it's good to have that space to do those things too. Like this commander in the way I've built it and tuned it over the course of a decade or whatever it winds up being, like it's just not playable in 3 without being a problem. So there's a place to play it there. 4 is nebulous enough that you can play those kind of decks there. 4 seems kind of free of angle shooting to a degree.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing. Whereas 3, I think,
angle shooting place 3 and 2. Well, because 2 is where you get people who are like, oh, don't have any game changers, therefore it's a 2, and it's just like, sure, Jan. Right. Yeah.
That is the thing that I like the most about CEDH and bracket 4 is where like if you say we're playing CEDH, everybody knows what that rule 0 conversation is going to be. Is I'm playing CEDH, and the expectations are set with like those few words. Bracket 4 has a lot of that same overtone. Like we're playing bracket 4, we're playing high powered, and like everybody understands what that means. There's less room for like miscommunication in those brackets, whereas like you guys said, brackets 3, bracket 4, there's a little bit of like negotiation almost with like, is it really is that the case? But like if you say like I'm playing bracket 4, here we go, like everybody knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And Marion Urail, how much do you gentlemen think that these changes have to do with how the prices will change to rack up revenue in different spots in response to the Hasbro lawsuit that's going on now? 0%. Once the cards are out there in the open, Wizards isn't making any more money off of them. They sold the cards
these
in the
cards
back.
have already been sold.
Yeah. So yeah,
it's like a biorhythm. Like even if they make it a mythic in the next whatever set, that's not. You're gonna still be disappointed when you open it, and it's not gonna see enough play to drive up demand.
Hope so.
If anything, I think one could make the argument that a Ristic study will remain unbanned. Like if you want to be a conspiracy theorist, Ristic study will not get banned because it's a great chase mythic to put in a set. Like that would be the way I would go if I wanted to like be a say that.
I don't think Biorhythm is a great chase mythic to put into
That's
a
what
set.
he
So there's no incentive there.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like if anything, I would say Ristic Study not being banned is a version of that because Biorhythm's not going to make them any money being unbanned.
Right. It has to do with like the point of sale, not the point of it's already out there and price fluctuations do as they do. I think that there's plenty of reason to be dubious about a company making decisions like that. And like the Ristic Study, like, oh, is this card not getting banned because it is? Are we going to have the Hogak situation where they didn't ban Hogak right away because Hogak was still selling? Like, I think that there's still plenty of room for those as a critique. But in terms of like a connection to the lawsuit thing, 0%. I think that the Commander Format panel and the folks in charge of making these rules are just like, hey, we're doing our job, which is in a completely different wing of the company. That's how all of this feels to me.
Whole different building.
Yeah.
If they when Hasbro wants to print money, they just have to print a really busted card with a really in-demand character on the card, like Vivi. like that's how they sell. Like they're going to make so much more money off doing that kind of thing than they are off anything with the ban restricted list.
To Pharaoh, do we expect labels on future precons containing game changers? Maybe. I think Gavin had hinted at one of those in an episode, right?
They hinted like that's a lever that they can play around with on the packaging.
Yeah. Like has to be finalized first, but
yeah. I don't know if they would do like. I don't know if they would mismatch brackets between. Excuse me. Like say they did like for the Star Trek set, and they're going to do 5 precons for Star Trek. I don't think they would do 2 bracket 2s and 2 bracket 4s.
Yeah.
I think that they would have them all still be maybe like 2 bracket 2s and 1 bracket 3, because you can still play those together. You can and like maybe it's bracket 3 by virtue of there's a game changer in it. I think they all would be along the same power levels. I don't think they're going to have like 5 precons and have 5 different brackets.
Yeah. Well, but I could see them fully for like one of those sets where they only release 2 precons or something, which they've done before. Have them both be bracket 4 decks or something. Yeah, like I could see that for sure.
And let's be honest.
Or if they do like Modern Horizons 17, whatever the hell they do.
Yeah. The Modern Horizons decks were really dang good, despite lack of game changers. I think you could easily call that Omo deck or something, like very suitable and comfortable in a bracket 3 area. The Hearthwell deck is very strong. I've heard good things so far about the Ashling 5-color elemental deck that just came out from Lorwyn. I haven't played against it myself, so I don't have any horse in that race, but like, you don't need the game changers at all in your deck for it to still be a 3, or at least to like hang there. So
yeah.
Don't print more companions. 100% agreed. Yeah, don't. There's very limited design space for them to continue exploring there anyway. But yeah, I don't think that they'd want to revisit one of their biggest mistakes ever anytime soon.
I would, if they did a version of companions, because they so credit where it's due. Every time they've done a twist on partner, for example, it's been executed better. If they wanted to revisit companion, they would tweak it and find a way to like have it not have the glaring issues companion did. I do think that they would come back to it and do it better. Should they isn't a whole nother question though.
So my guess is I bet we'll get another companion or 2 card, but I would guess we'll see them in a precon or something. You know, like we occasionally get a random partner that shows up in a precon, or a random, you know, horsemanship card or something. Like, it wouldn't shock me to see us get a one-off companion down the road in some kind of a precon, because then they eliminate it being a problem in modern and standard, and they only have to really worry about vintage and so like it's a much smaller eternal format pool they have to look at. Okay, let's make sure this doesn't screw that stuff up there. There's just enough doing it that way. There's a lot more dials they can tweak and things they can watch out for. But the biggest problem, like Joey said, the design space is so limited. There's only so many things they can do. I think that in terms of restrictions, to make it even viable. But I would bet they would revisit it off as a one-off. We're not going to see, you know, 10 companions in a standard set or something again.
That's interesting. Yeah. Of the ways to do it, that'd be more polite. I still hope that they don't, but I like that that hypothetical, that thought. I like that. Someone said bracket 2 precon $45, bracket 3 precon $75. Yes, we have seen that. That's what the Modern Horizons 3 precons were. Is exactly that. 100% exactly what they will do. Blows, but yeah.
Every artifact in your deck is a spaceship. Yeah, actually, see a companion kind of thing in a Star Trek, you know, precon or something down the road where it's like specifically tied to that deck in a way that you couldn't make it run easily elsewhere. Sure, that's would be a good way to do that.
Yeah. Ethan Towsley, yes, I think we'll see more of the card reskinned as itself card like we did with Fallout. I think we'll probably see that in the Hobbit. I think that they can sell a whole lot of packs if they put the One Ring in the Hobbit packs this summer.
That would be a good poly market bet about whether or not the One Ring shows up in the Hobbit, because I feel like it definitely is. There's so few venues for reprints for that card, and it's so expensive, and like both they need to get more copies out there for demand, and it makes them a lot of money, and like there's every single reason for it to be in that set and very few reasons for it to not be in that set.
There's
Eminence. Eminence. I want to see Eminence. Your deck can have 200 cards.
First of all, that's funny, but they did revisit Eminence. Eminence. They did revisit that one, and Sidar Jabari is a perfectly fine, powerful, but still like fine commander. Like that's one that I was happy to see them revisit one time and be like, hey, we can do this. It's not the mechanic itself that is fundamentally flawed. It's just we messed up the first iteration. Yeah. There's someone who was mentioning like regarding how CEDH is being considered why no hit 2, and then there's a list of a whole bunch of cards, and I feel like the fact that there is a list of a whole bunch of cards is kind of the reason there wasn't a hit. That's like a lot of different directions to go,
because they're all in the same playing field. Like,
right, I think that's kind of what I mean. Yeah. Like they do have folks who play competitively in the panel and in like Wizards official designing, like the folks who make the final decision there too. So it's not a perspective that isn't being heard, but it is also a place that doesn't need a huge bunch of shakeups. Battle of its Companion would be crazy. I agree. Yeah, there's an interesting thing here. BK Yang is pointing out a difference between bracket 4 and bracket 5, that like going all out versus like the my CEDH deck, but it's not meta, so it's a bracket 4. My experience so far with bracket 4, which is admittedly going to be very different to your experience, like probably very very different to your experience. Mine so far has been like bracket 4 is sort of like on the lower part, like the floor of bracket 4, as opposed to the ceiling of bracket 4, has been what I've encountered thus far personally. That people are excited to do something powerful, but that still has a little bit of janky twang to it, maybe you could say. Like I'm playing Conrad at bracket 4 because there's kind of no other option, but I'm still not playing all of the tutor lines that you might expect, or even like combo stuff with him. I have a friend who's got a Una deck that can do combo, and it's really dang fun, but it's not constantly tutoring up every single thing that it could, and Una's certainly not meta. So my experience with bracket 4 thus far has been a little bit different than that, but I do agree the differentiation, if there is like people resting on the ceiling of 4, that feels a little bit angle shooty, and that can be kind of frustrating.
So again, or not again, but just I'll note in advance by saying, you know, anecdotes aren't statistics. My experience over the years with like guys that are looking to pub stomp or be disingenuous with their deck's power level, they're not looking to be just a little bit disingenuous. They're not looking to take a like bottom tier CEDH deck and play it in bracket 4, but it's still a CEDH style deck where they would have to risk actually losing to a good bracket 4 deck. They want to go be able to actually just beat face down in bracket 3 with a really, really strong deck that shouldn't be in bracket 3. That's why I just feel like I very rarely have ever ran into that kind of angle shooting in bracket 4, because like people that are looking for that experience where they just stomp on everyone want to stomp on everyone, and like you're running the risk of not being able to do that in bracket 4 because there's a lot of, you know, decks doing high powered stuff there. I'm not saying that's universal, but like the guys I know that do that kind of thing don't want to take a risk of actually having to play a real game.
Brutal. I didn't realize that you were so. You have a lot more energy today for an evisceration than I do. I have not had my coffee yet, man.
So like, locally at my LGS, we have a really competitive Modern scene, including a group of people that get together and play Modern and like test their decks and travel to events and stuff. So that's what our local competitive thing winds up being. And a lot of we have some CEDH players, but like it's mostly guys that can't make the Modern team and can't play in that environment. So they like, some of them enjoy CDH, but also like we have locally, that's what our pub stompers do, because that's where they can do it. They can't get to play. So that's my experience. I have a few people I know that wander in out of my LGS that like have that reputation, and they're not looking to sit in a bracket 4 deck and have to play against your Sir Conrad or play against Reki. They want to pull out their deck that they can pretend is not a fringe CDH deck and sit in bracket 3 with it. That's like what they want to do. And I don't know, that's not universal, but like that's been my experience with those people. And even when I go to events and stuff, that's how it is too. Like my bracket 4 games have always been people just looking to play high powered stuff, like Matt said, just looking to like slam a bunch of big powerful cards and do things that would be too strong for bracket 3. It just seems to have been what I've experienced every place I've went with bracket 4.
As a real quick thing to Jack Lamb, taking my whole list and disregarding it, didn't disregard, I pointed out the size of it. And as you said, any one hit to any of the cards on your list, that's a thing that you said yourself, would change the format for CEDH. My guess is that they don't want to change the format for CEDH. They feel as though it's actually holding in a steadier place and doesn't require a shakeup. I don't play a lot of CEDH, but that's not disregarding. Just clearly they came to a decision that it is not in need of something so severe, because there are lots of things that could be powerful, but that's the point, right? So
yeah, like as strong as Oracle is in CEDH, and I guess I've never polled the community to see if they'd be happy with it being gone, but the meta seems to like have folded that in a way where everyone's either you're playing it or you know how to deal with it, and it's just part of the ecosystem. So I was not expecting a Thoracle ban at all, whereas I felt like because Ristic Study is like such a weird warping card in that you intentionally are bringing copy enchantments to copy it or stuff like that. That's why I thought that might get it, because like it's just all it would change is this thing that's not part of the win condition. It's just a value piece that everyone wants to run, versus Oracle changes how entire decks function. At least that's my understanding.
I don't really know. My feeling on CEDH is that the cream tends to rise to the top. So like when Flash was a problem, the entire community had been talking about that for a very long time, and it was kind of a unanimous universal thing, because when you're devoted to finding the best thing, the very best one, that best option tends to rise up to that point. If there are multiple best things, that is going to be less of a case for banning the way that, like, as we saw with the example set by Flash. Jack Laham, it seems like you have a bit of an agenda, so I'm going to go ahead and stick to whatever it is that I want to do instead.
Yeah.
Doomsday Nuke Corner keeps to itself? Certainly hope so. Biorhythm is more restrictive than the vast majority of win conditions that mana value. I think that's an interesting take. Yeah, I think that's interesting.
I mean, it's also something that like is easily, not easily, but it's counterable. Like, if people, yeah, like if you just cast a blind Biorhythm, like it's a burn spell in mono green, cool. But like, you put everybody to 10 life or whatever, depending on the deck. But then like you still have to like go out and win the game from there. So like a Biorhythm by itself, like it does require a lot of work, which means you like in one turn you need 14 plus mana. So like
if you want to just auto win, there's easier ways to do it.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's not even necessarily the power of it. It's the way that the game ends matters a bit to me as well. And like that bystander effect that we kind of mentioned earlier, like the feeling of a non-game or something. You're cushioned from that, from the expectation set by the bracket 3 space, but like there's still a tinge of it that makes me a little bit worried. But I do appreciate that, like I appreciate what I think was Shuval was saying, that like there are restrictions on it that are worth considering. I don't think it should come off of the game changer list though. That one I would say like it just got there. And I appreciate the heads up about a card like that personally still.
So one question, Itachi Uchiha asked, do you guys think certain deck archetypes are too strong for B3 and lower? You have weird things where like aggro is too fast for B2 to be functional kind of as aggro to a degree. There's weird, just the speed of how fast, for an aggro deck to actually be an aggro deck, you kind of can't play it in B2. And maybe B3 it's not the best spot for it too.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily true.
It's
you can definitely play aggro, and I think it's the type that like players in brackets 2, I mean you can't just kind of like rely on people not interacting with you. In bracket 2, that's where you take the training wheels off. Bracket 1, where like it is theme focused and everybody's just trying to like express that thing they're trying to express. Sure, I think maybe bracket 1 is the only space where aggro deck maybe wouldn't make sense. But once you get into bracket 2 and up, then like that's where I'm like, you can't just like expect people not to interact with you and not to just like let you do the thing, because that's the whole point of bracket 1.
I don't think it's necessarily about the interaction so much though as the speed. Like in order to win with an aggro deck, you need to kill 3 people in a certain amount of time, and
you need to do 100 points of damage though. So
that's tough. That's tough to do, I think. In a way that makes it actually an aggro deck. I don't know. Maybe I'm phrasing this incorrectly. You have the same problem to a degree with like Stax kind of stuff. Even if you aren't doing land restriction or whatever it is, like if you found a way to make a Stax deck that is within the bracket system rules, it's still maybe not a thing that's appropriate to bracket 2. So I do think there are some things that you kind of can't play in some places for multiple reasons, if that makes sense.
I get the point of the question, definitely, because there are, if anything, I feel more like there are certain commanders that I think can't be a bracket 2 compared to certain archetypes, if that makes sense.
I would argue the biggest problem we have in Commander right now is what's in the command zone.
Yeah.
Like there are, and it's particularly the ones that they print 2 or 3 of every set, whether it's the Fire Lords or it's the VVs or fill in the blank with whatever the top 3 commanders are from every single set, that create a situation where if you try to build a creative, interesting brew and you sit down in bracket 3 usually, but it can be an issue in bracket 2 as well, and you're going against one of those commanders, you are immediately starting off 2 turns behind because of the fact that like those commanders make their own, shop for their own groceries, make their own dinner, and eat their own food. Like they will do all of the things, and you are immediately so far behind just by virtue of what's in the command zone. And then you create this situation where, okay, well, I have to not let you play Magic then, and that's not a good situation to be set up with either. So I think that is a problem. I don't know how you fix that necessarily either. I don't know if it is. I don't think it is fixable. But like that's, I think, a huge situation we have right now. And I feel like for the most part, it's not an issue. I play so much of this that I have the ability, I think, to still like make home brews. But I see a lot of people that struggle with that. They come into the shop and like, oh, I built this cool deck. I want to see how it plays. And they sit down against someone who pulls out their new Fire Lord deck that they put no thought or energy into building at to They just slapped a bunch of cards that like were obvious into it. And
that might be a mischaracterization, Dana. Come on.
I'm exaggerating a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe if Fire Lord isn't the best example, maybe she's talking about, I'll use VV because it's another recent one.
He's
like,
pretty
you just
stupid,
slap a bunch of cards into a VV deck or a Storm deck or something without having to think about it really, and you can roll over tables pretty easily. And I think that's a problem. Or Joda, or whatever like commander we want to insert in here.
Yeah.
And that's not, like, you're not a bad person for playing Joda or VV or whoever it winds up being, but that's just the reality of the situation. Like there's certain commanders where it doesn't matter what's the power of the 99 is kind of irrelevant, not irrelevant, but like you could have 2 roughly equal decks with the cards in the 99, but with Joda in the command zone versus this other card in the command zone, you're gonna be starting on third base having Joda in the zone.
Yeah, Joda's the one in my head. I think the Ureni that just came out is also like hinging on that I'm a little more powerful than maybe they meant me to be type of area. So yeah, I think generally though, like to the archetypes question, which is an interesting question, I think it's really worth asking. Like I've never heard of a bracket 2 Stax, but I feel like Stax is automatically like known via the mana resource denial thing to be like if there's any archetype that has been elevated to a specific place and only that place, it is Stax being at bracket 4 and no lower. But I don't know if there are others that I would say, I've never seen a +1 counters deck, or I've never seen, I think Blink had been one that had been mentioned a couple of times, and I've seen perfectly fair Blink decks before. Some of them can default to combo for sure, but I've seen people who are like appropriately raining Blink in. Like, there's no individual archetype that I'm just like, I don't believe that that's a 2, compared to the feeling when I see a Joda in the zone where I'm just like, I'm gonna keep my eye on that guy. I'm gonna keep my eye on that over there.
Sure.
So, but that's, I don't know, that's just my take. That's my taste in tea, probably.
Yeah, the CEDH solves that problem by everything being, I can't let you play.
Right.
I mean, that is one of the things about CEDH that you don't have to deal with. If everything is a problem, nothing's a problem.
That's
They just, there's a comment we just got, like CEDH is for archenemy decks trying to out archenemy each other the fastest. Like, but that's also like everybody opts into that and everybody understands that's the goal.
Yeah.
And that, like, you don't have that happening anywhere else.
And I think that's what I meant with like the list of cards earlier that apparently are like big deals in CEDH. I'm just like, if there's a lot of them, isn't that what the point of CEDH is? There should be a lot of cards that are like crazy powerful.
So
where else to play those cards but in CEDH?
So I think back of when I started playing Commander, 12, 13 years ago now at this point, and the game was the format was so new and there were so many less cards made for Commander that it was so easy to like just come up with a deck like, oh, I had this cool idea, I want to try it, and you could sit down and like you could play with that deck. I think and of course at the time I was, new back to Magic and didn't have maybe some of the knowledge I have today, and I was much a rustier player, but I could sit down and enjoy a game like that. I think today, if I came to the game the way I did back then, and like, oh, I'm gonna try to build this deck and then show up and play against and sit down across from a Joda or whatever the real, and as I said, there's a bunch of those commanders I feel like fall into that category. I don't know if I would have kept playing Commander if my attempt at a homebrew ran head first into one of those new Commander decks.
Dana, I really hope that your cat's meowing.
That is.
I really hope.
I have the door closed, and she's not happy that she can't get in here.
I love that one of the banes of our recording sessions, because cat meowing would ruin recordings. We'd have to be like, Dana, we heard your cat. Can you re-say what you just said, please? Is now like so famous on Instagram on the Architect Reels and stuff like that. That's just, sorry, that was just really funny.
Yeah, she's wandered off now. So it's down.
Oh, we're not gonna get a famous cat cameo?
We are not. I could go get her, I suppose, but I hear she's being played with by somebody right now.
So fun. I think an interesting tone about this, like between this and like the last update that we did a stream for, there's a lot of nonchalance that I'm noticing. There's a lot of yeah, okay, kind of attitude, which is a really nice place to vibe in, I guess. Like, I don't agree with all of it.
I would rather have every announcement be a vibe than every announcement be what the last one under the rules committee was.
Exactly. Yeah. There's something very nice about this. Like, there was a time in which like a Biorhythm Unban would have been like news. And now it's kind of like, okay, yeah, another drop in the ocean. Interesting. We'll see how this goes. And like, I haven't agreed with all of those things, or even some of the updates that they made. I think they, like when they took Expropriate off or whatever, it was like, I don't like that, or Biorhythm Unban isn't a thing that I wouldn't have put a risk on or whatever, but like it still feels as though the tone is smooth sailing and they tied a knot a different way than I would have on that vessel, as opposed to we're heading in completely the wrong direction on this ship. And that's just a nice, those are nice waters to swim in. It's I appreciate that. No?
Yeah, three kobolds. How does partner commanders give you access to 101 cards? Because if you have partners, then you have 98 cards in your deck, not 99.
It doesn't give you access to 101 cards, but it gives you access to 8 cards in your opening hand, I guess is probably the better way to phrase that.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Or extra card in your opening hand that everyone else doesn't have.
No, the commander system is a fundamentally broken mechanic.
Sure.
So when they are like super overpowered, then we do feel it a lot. We have big ramifications. Someone had mentioned, like, is the only solution putting more commanders onto the game changers list? And unfortunately, that's just not a realistic solution, because there are so many of them that would end up going on there.
In every set, there'll be 3 more.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate reality, right?
It's probably an exaggeration, but like every set there'll be 1 or 2 more probably. I mean, like I feel like
it's the type of list that can't stay. It's the type of list that then forces you to constantly look for updates, and that's not a way for us to engage with this. This has changed a couple of times, and there's still a lot of people who haven't patched. There's still a lot of people who are working off of version 1.0 and haven't updated yet. And that's kind of why Lutri was regular banned for so long, was because banned as companion and not as in the 99 was a thing that they were like, oh, are people going to understand that? Is the update going to get out to enough people for them to understand the difference? And I'm glad to say that they've made a decision about that. But it does then cause, as soon as one of these things happen, a ripple effect occurs. All right, cool. Oh, we're doing banned as companion. Well, why not banned as commander? Is immediately going to be the next thing that we hear people talk about, right? So every single one of these is
we just had somebody in our chat, in our Discord, Joey, said, hopefully this is a precursor to banned as commander coming back.
There you go.
Hashtag #FreeRepellos. And I'm like, no, get that devil magic out of here.
I mean, I think we
There she is. There's Ellie. Hi, girl.
I will go retrieve.
Will you please finish your oh, he took his headphones off. I was like, please finish your thought before you go if you want. What other game changer is getting actively printed in Precons, Jeff Tawney? Jeska's Will has a couple of times. Seedborn Muse was in the Kadena deck. I remember that one. Technically, all the free spells were.
Was in the Faldorn. Jessica's Will was in the Faldorn deck. Quiet. Farewell's been a couple precons.
Famous cat.
Most recently, the Final Fantasy X precon.
Famous cat. And cat butt.
Those stacks are.
She just wants to yell. She doesn't actually want me to hold her. She just wants to yell at me.
Relatable.
Very silly. And I feel like there are plenty of game changers that I would be like, yeah, that makes total sense to put into a precon without disrupting a new player. I just picked this up for the first time experience. Like Field of the Dead, for instance, is the kind of card that like indicates how much thoughtfulness you've put into your deck and its mana base. And so like if that was in a precon, I'd be like, yeah, sure, okay, whatever. If they've reprinted Teferi's Protection in a precon, I feel like I would get that. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't think they should put a Force of Will in a precon. That feels maybe inappropriate for the type of experience that precons are designed to foster. But there are a handful of those where I'm just like, okay, yeah, I get it.
I mean, Enlightened Tutor. Like, I'm just looking at the game changes right now. Like, if they put that in a precon, okay.
I wouldn't.
Sphinx would be a little strong.
Yeah, I don't know. Sphinx, I wouldn't have put as a game changer myself personally, but now that it's there, I like kind of. I'm like, sure. Like, I guess I get it. Tutors, I would be like, if you just picked up the deck and you don't know what to tutor for, would be my worry. But it's not like crop rotation itself in a precon would be like hugely damaging.
Yeah. Rift.
It wasn't the Teferi precon.
Fierce Guardianship was, Fierce Guardianship was introduced in a precon.
A whole bunch of
Gifts. Gifts applies to the same thing as tutors. Intuition, same thing. Well, Intuition's reserveless, so. Narset Parter Veils.
Notion Thief was in the Anawan precon.
Yeah. Notion Thief, Narset, both, kind of whatever. Ristic Study, no. Thoracle, no. Ad Nauseam, probably not, because it's an easy card to misplay.
Yeah.
Both the Citadel.
I'd hope not.
Maybe?
If they did like a life swing precon, like a drain my own life and change it, like a Selenia type of deck, which I hope they don't do, because I'm like, it's a little bit like, oh, we saw a creative deck that exists out there. Let us come do it. Kind of thing. I don't know. I want that to be like kind of its own thing. That's my hipster emerging. That's my version of being Dana right now. But if they did, Bolas the Citadel would make sense in it, and I could see it not being quite as devastating in the precon environment, I guess. There's an excitement to it, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. I'd still feel weird maybe, though.
Then Braids, God no. Tutors. Necro, I hope not. Opposition Agent, probably, because it doesn't do anything in precons for the most part.
Like it could be, but to what end, right? Like even if you were building a real deck, why would you put it in there?
Bowmasters, kind of the same thing, honestly.
Turgid it's getting reprinted in the Hobbit set.
Bowmasters and One Ring.
Yeah.
Jessica's Will has already been in precons. Underworld Breach would be terrible in precons, probably.
Yeah.
Biorhythm, hopefully not. Crop Rotation, sure. Cradle can't. Natural Order, same thing as the tutors. Seedborn Muse has been. Survival can't. Worldly Tutor, sure. Aura Shards, hopefully not, but it has been in a precon, I believe.
It was in the Gave deck.
One of the early ones.
Yeah, like the old, before they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
So like, hopefully not again, because that can be pretty hard to get out from under. Depends on the precon environment, I guess. Like if you're putting like an Enchantress deck in there, then like that would make it really miserable. Coalition Victory, hopefully not. Grand Arbiter, hopefully not. Ocean Thief was. Ancient Tomb, no.
Yeah.
Chromox probably wouldn't be good in a precon environment. Field of the Dead, I hope not. It shouldn't.
Really? I feel like
Glacial
Field of the Dead would be fine.
I think with all the scattered mana bases, I think that would be really, like, if you put it in like the what was the Edge of Eternity's Jund? Yeah, Hearthold. I think if you put it in that precon, like that gets really gross.
Really? Okay.
And the precon's already pretty good.
Yeah, it's very good. I feel like I don't know. That's of all of them, that's one that I could see, because it feels to me like the capper to a deck that I finished, as opposed to like the thing that made my deck good. Maybe I'm not saying that though.
Maybe
I'm saying that right.
I mean, I don't think it would be the most egregious of them, but I also think like it may not be. It's also like and it depends on what they want Precons to be as well. If they want it to be a new player tool, then Field of the Dead should not be, because it's another card that you have to track when you do every single little thing.
But that's fair.
Which is why I think like the Final Fantasy Precons were probably the best example of this. They were terrible for the new player experience because there was a lot of things to track at every single moment in time. So if they want the Precons to be a sales tool for established players, Field of the Dead would be great. If they want it to be for new players, it would be terrible.
The Doctor Who ones were as well. Those were rough for
yes. Oh, they were real bad.
It was such a bummer.
They were real bad.
Like, conceptually, they were playing in spaces that I do feel like are interesting. Teamer Play from Exile is interesting. Jeskai Time Counters is interesting. But God, I'm not cursing. Everyone else has, but I'm not going to curse. But I will insert lots of expletives here. Those were just not new player friendly in any regard, which is such a bummer because those decks should have been given the property.
Yeah, I think it just depends on what the vision is for that round of Precons. For Field of the Dead, Glacial Chasm is probably fine.
Oh, I disagree on that.
Most players are going to kill themselves with it.
I don't agree on that one. There are some decks that are like especially in the Precon environment, the only way they can win is via combat damage. And so like to shut the game off for that many turns of like any forward momentum feels antithetical to what I'd want that environment to be.
I think with how slow the typical Precon is out of the box, though, like a Field of the Dead, or not a Glacial Chasm, like is just as slow.
I think if we took that Hearthhole Precon and put a Glacial Chasm in it, it gets a whole lot more dangerous than if it has a Field of the Dead in it.
Sure, and it can't be just any Precon. Like the Hearthhole, Hearthhole being able to like recur the Glacial Chasm,
right?
Like it can. That's yeah. Grin Monolith can't. LED can't. Mana Vault no. Shop can't. Mox Diamond can't. Panoptic Mirror. The One Ring shouldn't be. Tabernacle can't. It's like half of them, half the game changers, if like in theory they were put into a Precon, are kind of sure.
There's some that I could see it. Yeah, I wouldn't be like offended by their presence. I'd be kind of like, oh, a nice reprint. Is I think what my first reaction would be.
Have either of you two seen a Panoptic Mirror since the unbanning?
Thankfully, no.
I have not.
I have not either.
I think it also falls into the farewell jail almost concept that we were talking about near the beginning of the stream, where like if you are playing in bracket 3 and you have a limited number of spaces, you're going to put the Tef Pro in first, you know, like you're going to put the Ristic in first or something like that. There are those things that you prioritize in whatever colors that you're in, or if you're playing 2 color or 3 color, that it doesn't end up being one of your 3. And I feel that that's the way that farewell might end up going. So then it kind of gets relegated to the bracket 4 space and up, which is an interesting ripple effect to see from these.
Yeah, Topher Bor said, what new player, why doesn't my Glacial Chasm tap for mana?
Yeah.
And your response is, well, it does. I have a Urborg in play.
There's no way I'm going to make a new player do that. But, you know, not all Precons are for new players, as you yourself were saying there. So,
but yeah, like if they put Panoptic Mirror into like a Precon, like some people in chat are talking about, like you can't put any board wipes in there.
Yeah,
that's pretty darn miserable for the
like
for a curated experience like that.
Yeah, you have to curate what you're putting in the deck around that.
Yeah, it'd be pretty rough indeed.
Or it has to be something like what was that energy board wipe? Like Clear the Skies or whatever.
I know the one you're talking about. Like, I can see the art, but I forget it.
There's a significant cost to like doing that, and like if you're Panoptic Mirroring, you can't pay X. So.
Mm-hmm.
Add Field of the Dead to a zombie deck, Fred Meyer. I think that makes more sense than the lands deck. It might be like the kind of thing that in a lands deck they'd be like, maybe not. But in a zombie deck, it's a cute addition that isn't going to be quite as broken. Like that's the vibe I think I felt earlier, and you put really good words to it. I appreciate that take a whole lot.
Yeah, like in a zombie deck, it's just or even like a token deck of some sort. It's just a land that doesn't really do anything until all of a sudden you're at turn 8 and you're like, oh, I get a zombie every turn. You know,
Yeah, and in that context, I think a lot of people looked at it and they were like when you first read the card, it kind of has that vibe of like, oh, really? This got banned? But then you play with it, and in the one-on-one formats especially, it was just like, what were they doing? There are a lot of strings on these cards they could have put on that they didn't, and that's a funny thing to observe.
Yeah, King Arachnus has a really good point. Like, any deck that could have Necropotence in it should have Necrodominance instead, because like, yeah, if they printed a like fixed and less dangerous version of the card, they're gonna put the fixed and less dangerous version. Like, they're not gonna put granted because it's banned, but Recurring Nightmare is never gonna be in there. But the fixed version of Recurring Nightmare could go into Precons.
Just Ryan George, why stop Lutri as a companion? The rules errata was enough of a fix. No, that's unfortunately no, because even with like it could have been a 10 mana 1/1. But it still would have been a free card based off of its restriction. And the idea is just like having a free card for people who happen to be playing in that color combination is the problem. It doesn't necessarily matter what the power level of that card is. It's that every deck that plays blue-red can play that for free.
How easily satisfied is that companion clause, and it's actually 0 effort to do in Commander.
Right. That's the actual danger part of it.
Like I said, even if it's just a mediocre creature, just having even if it doesn't impact the game, it's just such a weird thing to just give every blue red / deck a free card. It's just such a weird thing that.
Well, because now I look at any blue red deck that you make and I'm like, you are wrong for not having played this. It may not even come up in a game, but you are wrong for not having done it because it is technically free value, and that's. That's not how we play this game. It's
giving an unfair advantage to decks that are playing Izzet colors as a base versus like I get an advantage by virtue of just choosing this commander, which that's not what they're trying to
we already have weird situations like where you go to build a mono black deck or a mono red deck or something, and you're like, this deck would be better with Snowlands. Like there's always one card like I could if I was this mono green deck, if I ran Snowlands, I could run Into the North and have one more 2 mana green ran spell. If I ran this black deck, if I had Snowlands, I could run Dead of Winter, and that for the most part, folks ignore that. But like I notice it every single time I go to build or brew one of those kind of decks. I'm like, technically, if I wanted, I should run Snowlands here.
Seedborn was in the Obzon Precon too. Thank you, Burger King. Appreciate that. Yeah, so we had just been talking about like which ones that didn't make it into Precons and didn't. Tired of green getting broken cards not put into the game changer. It just got a new one. Just got a new one put into the game changers.
Not that way. Not like this.
I kind of feel as though one of the strange expectations of this is the people coming from two different angles, because there are people looking sort of from the CEDH level down, and then there are people looking from the bracket 2 and bracket 3 level up. And the bracket 2 level and bracket 3 level, that's where green has its abilities feel the most most capable, compared to up in CEDH. Green is just like, hi. It's not doing a whole lot. So like that is where we have to find this balancing act between things. So a lot of the stuff that feels super broken or whatever in bracket 2 and 3 spaces is the type of stuff that once you actually move into bracket 4 and upwards, really they're the cards that you're taking out of your decks to make them better, and that is the problem that green runs into here. So
I mean, Commander is functionally an unfixable, unbalanceable format, just because of how the rules of Magic work, and it's a multiplayer, and like there's just so many things about it that like there's no perfect. It's just never going to happen. And while the bracket system is imperfect, it's the best tool we've had to get us to some degree of balance thus far. It's not to say it can't be further tweaked, and hopefully it will continue to be tweaked, but like. We've never had a system that's worked as well as this, despite the fact that like it's never going to be perfect. Like this is I'm very happy with how brackets work in general compared to just the Wild West we kind of had before.
But those are the spaces that game changers matter. Swordmate, yeah, I agree, and that's a really, really good point. An interesting thing about the brackets too is the knock-on effect that they have towards the different strategies and how we engage with them. Once you know that you're playing bracket 3. Immediately you're starting to do some things in the game that make the specialties that green has you start to sand off a couple of those edges, and as you move further upwards as well, you're sanding off even more of them. So the presence of the bracket system alone is another thing that sort of regulates a couple of those things. There are certain things that don't need to be placed into the game changer system because of what the game changer system because of what the bracket system does. I totally understand that argument, though. I think that's a very, very good point. But to me,
yeah,
I'm not seeing a bunch of green cards out there still personally where I'm just like, oh, I can't believe they, like, I'm not having that reaction, compared to there's still a lot of other blue cards where I look at it and I'm just like, oh, it's that type of game, is still some of the reaction that I have to a couple of, like, cards from other colors.
How is Mana Drain not a...
Mana Drain's up there for me. I understand why they haven't put it there. I get it. It is the kind of thing that especially falls off. It's not, like, universally... I get it. I've made my peace with it, but it was, like, up there. And it's, like, of that oeuvre, I guess. Anyway.
Yeah. Exodus, like, you put a really good narrative to why the brackets and everything exist for strangers in general. Like, the comment was, I have a dedicated play group. Our pregame convo is that we just know each other. The friendships built over time, set to play. We play to match each other's power. A lot of salt comes from randoms. Well, the fact that you all have that pregame relationship and conversation taken care of in advance, that's awesome, and that's what they want to encourage. But, like, that's why we have the structure of brackets, of game changers, of all these as a way to, like, give randoms a common language to speak to each other to help navigate for the lack of experience with each other. So, like, I'm glad your play group has that, and everybody, like, I wish everybody did, because it's awesome to have that play group. But also, like, when you go and play at a MagicCon, you don't have those relationships, and that's why we need these things. So, like, and even Gavin, since the Commander format panel's taken over, they've constantly said, like, if you have a house band list that you really like, still keep using it. Like, we're not trying to overrule what you're doing at the kitchen table. This is setting the expectations for strangers, and that's why we need all this.
JJK Langley made a point that Green's doing great in CEDH.
Okay.
Yes, but the things Green is doing in CEDH that are great aren't necessarily the same things Green's great at in bracket 2 and bracket 3.
Yeah,
and the cards aren't the same cards.
That's a great distinction. Yeah. Yeah, very, very good point. Someone had mentioned about, like, bracket 3.5. I hope not. I'm so used to the 5 brackets that I really am just like, please keep, please don't.
I mean, bracket 3 is undoubtedly probably the broadest bracket, and, like, the difference between the top and the bottom is the widest, I would say, and I don't think it's close. But I don't think that gets fixed necessarily by splitting it in 2 either.
Yeah. It does feel as though there is a bit of a commonality of people saying, like, a high 3 or a low 3, or, like, a low 4 or a high 4. Like, I feel like that's the language that we've discovered, and we were literally even trying to discuss it earlier. Or I guess maybe just I had mentioned an example. I don't know if it became, like, a huge topic. But I guess, like, low 4s is a thing that I've been enjoying playing a little bit more recently. And, like, to have that understanding, it's just like, yeah, this isn't attempting to be a CEDH deck, but it's not meta. Like, it's not that type of 4, but it's still clearly doing things that occur at bracket 4. Like, that language still feels useful to me, but it doesn't muddy up by, like, adding even more to the texture there, and it doesn't feel like I'm cheating by saying, oh, it's about a 7 either. It doesn't feel like it's quite going there. I don't know, it feels to me like it's set an expectation that, like, yeah, we're not doing CEDH combos, but we still want to play some really sweaty cards. So I don't know, that's a part of the language that I've noticed evolve that I think is kind of fascinating. Low 4s, high 4s,
and I think
low 3s, whatever.
I think the high 3, low 3 thing is where you really notice what's in the command zone making the difference too.
Okay. I feel like, yeah, I probably agree. I feel like what the commander is doing is where I notice the most for me in bracket 2 space, but, like, I think that's sort of just the same vibe for each, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you split high 3, low 3, high 4, low 4, and just make them their own brackets, then that means we can have our decks be a 7 again. No, because that adds 2 more brackets.
All right, I'm ending the stream. Good night, everyone. No. I did that video, the 7 levels of commander, and I meant as, like, the types of commander designs, but everyone's just like, oh my word, this is a great distillation of the 10 power system. I'm like, no, I was talking about like the reasons that commanders are made, as in like these ones are designed to go into the 99 or these ones are draft chaff. Like I'm talking about like commander designs, not about power levels. And people still misunderstood it, despite the fact that I said so like 4 times and I got criticized for saying it 4 times.
Topher Robeson asks, is a low 3 just a game changer with 3? Maybe, but
really?
Again, for me, I always think the difference is the commander. Like a low 3 is just a good bracket 3 deck. Might have a couple game changers, maybe it doesn't. Whereas I think the high 3 is what is where it's the commander does 7 different things and it's recursive. Like the commander does a thing and it's telling you to put these 30 cards in your deck that do that thing, and then it rewards you for doing the thing it told you to do and then also did.
I feel like a lot of elf decks, for instance, could be like a really powerful 3 that don't need a single game changer in them to still do the things. And I would still be kind of like, whoa, why isn't Heroic Intervention a game changer? I don't think that Heroic Intervention should be a game changer.
Because then you're putting a whole class of cards as a game changer if that's the case. Because like Heroic Intervention, it's kind of like the Ristic study on a different axis. Like you're targeting the best thing, but like there's a whole bunch of cards kind of do the same thing. Like if you, in my mind, I'm not surprised that Ristic study didn't get banned, because then there's also, you have stuff like the white creature Esper Sentinel. You have Mystic Remora. You have a bunch of other cards that are doing stuff like that. That just happens to be the best one of that ilk. Heroic Intervention is just like...
I would be fine with all those cards being game changers. If you wanted to add Esper Sentinel, if you wanted to add Heroic Intervention, Sylvan the Library, if you wanted to add 25 cards to the game changer list, I would be fine with that. I don't know if that's good for the format. I'm not going to argue that it would make the game better. I think it would be good for me, and I would enjoy it. But I don't know if that's I don't think that's a universal. What I would like doesn't necessarily mean it would be good for the format as a whole.
Well, and the function of a game changer in terms of heads up, it's like, if you say what the game changer is, and it is just like, here, it gives you like context. Saying that a Heroic Intervention is in my deck doesn't tell me about the power level that you're anticipating playing at. Sure. Compared to telling me that there's a Force of Will in your deck, I know now a lot more what I should be prepared for. That is really the function of the game changers thing more than anything. Saying Field of the Dead is in your deck or Glacial Chasm is in your deck indicates to me a thoughtfulness of the way that you've crafted the rest of the deck. And that's the point. Like, so that's my guiding light in terms of what makes it onto the list and what doesn't.
But me, Darkened Lens, like, by definition, Heroic Intervention is a game changer, or is it by definition a status quo manager? Like, it makes sure the game doesn't change because they're trying to wrath the board. Like, I don't buy that.
I think it's good. It's good to have ways to like counter everything, and it's good to have ways to counter board wipes or something. I also don't love the fact that like if I'm building a green deck, it's getting Heroic Intervention. It is every time.
Sure.
Like there's no situation where it's so efficiently costed. The problem with Heroic Intervention isn't what it does. It's what it does at 2 mana. If it was at 3, even at 3, where you have to leave 3 up, that feels much trickier, and I might be looking at other alternatives then. It's just so much better than anything else that does that effect in green. And I'm not sure that makes it a game changer, but I don't love the fact that like I'm just running it in every green deck.
Well, and I don't love that all my decks have Soul Ring in it, but putting Soul Ring on the game changer list has always felt to me like a fundamental misunderstanding of what the point of the game changers list is. Sure. Telling you that my deck has a Soul Ring gives you 0% new information. That doesn't tell you anything at all. So making it a game changer is an entirely a moot point. And that's how I would feel about Heroic Intervention. I feel like I've learned nothing. Whereas if you tell me a Farewell is in your deck, to address like an equivalency that's being made in the comments there, if I know that there's a Farewell in your deck, I still don't necessarily think that I would have put it as a game changer, just me personally, but I do still understand something about the dynamics that the game could have in a way that I like, okay, cool, I know a thing to engage with or be prepared for. If you tell me that a Biorhythm is in your deck, I know a thing to be prepared for, and that helps me recalibrate. Oh, we're playing that type of game, let me grab this other deck then, because I understand better now. Compared to, there's a Heroic Intervention in your deck, cool, you might be playing a Precon. Like, Heroic Intervention is just a very good card. Probably an irresponsibly, like, made card. Like, I don't know. I think that it's more powerful than they meant it to be, but I do not think that it's the type of thing that indicates to me that you're doing the stuff that, like, a Survival of the Fittest indicates that you could do, or even a One Ring. I don't think it's near that level whatsoever.
Yeah, just like, Yeah, Mason in chat put it really like banning the best in slot effects. Like that's just not a good thing. I don't think
it just is best in slot. That's
is heroic intervention. Yeah, is heroic intervention good? Yeah, absolutely. But like, there's a lot of good cards in the format, and like, there's a lot of cards that like do things that like maybe are a little pushed, but like, that's okay.
Golf asked a question about me including Umbral Mantle in my 200 card Val list, but it's not in the card deck. Staff of is it Dominion or Domination? I forget.
I think Domination.
How it works. Domination. Staff of Domination was in there, and there was one more I think that went infinite as well that I put in the 200 card deck that I don't run in the 100. If I'm being 100% honest, the thought process was I'm playing on extra turns, and I know Josh tends to go hard. And I have no tutors or ways to get them anyway. So if I happen to stumble across that infinite combo, I am perfectly okay with beating Josh Lee Kwai with an infinite combo in a 200 card deck with no tutors versus like some random person at my LGS. It wouldn't feel satisfying or it wouldn't feel good in that situation. I would have no problem beating Josh that way. So that was the thought process of why it was in there and why I don't run it in my 100 card version of the deck.
You're okay with like headhunting, but you're not okay with doing it.
I'm okay with headhunting Josh Lee Kwai.
And if folks are
particularly when I can't tutor it up or whatever it is, for sure.
And if folks are curious, speaking of the 200 thing, this is my deck box for Baba. These cards are facing a different way. That's why it looks different. Because I was like debating whether or not I take it back down to 100, and like if so, what would it be? But yeah, this is the Baba deck, and I've decided I still want to keep it this way.
Would we, Ethan Towsley asked, would we support allowing more than 100 card decks? Or do 2-block decks make that a bad change?
I like it. I'm game.
Yeah, I don't think there's a reason not to have, if you want to build a larger deck and deal with what comes with that, I don't think that's a problem.
I mean, it allows Yorion to not effectively be banned.
Sure, yeah. Battle of Wits.
It lets people play Battle of Wits. Yeah. It lets like, it does a lot of corner case stuff. We talked about this on an episode not too long ago. Like, I think it's fine.
Format, I think it was.
I would rather have people be able to have 200 card decks than people to have hybrid mana access.
I agree with that.
Sure. Yeah. I would wager you wouldn't run into it that often. Like most people wouldn't do it unless you're dealing with situations like, hey, let's all build 200 card decks or something, which you could just do with your friends anyway. I don't think people would really do it, but I think there's no reason to remove the ceiling from how many cards you can play.
Since this conversation is still going on in the chat, heroic folding to some of the best in class wipes is a really good observation, Burger King. I think that's a really important point.
Yeah, like Dark and Les, like I feel like you're pointing a lot of fingers, but then like everybody's like only pointing the finger at you.
No, I wouldn't say anyone's pointing a finger. It's just like they're not agreeing, and that's fine.
Rebutting, rebutting the arguments. Like Craterhoof is not a game changer because like there's 15 Craterhoofs. It's just, again, it's the best in class argument.
Well, yeah, right. And I'm not even sure it's necessarily the best in class. It's the best in class because it's tutorable and it's like it looks cool and it has great art. But like I've never cast an overrun over an overwhelming stampede or a triumph for the hordes or a overcome or a any of the
overwhelming stampede.
I've never cast one of those and been like, oh man, if I only would have had Craterhoof. Like it still gets the job done. Again, if Gavin released an emergency announcement today and it's like Craterhoof's now a game changer, I would not care a bit. I wouldn't, wouldn't impact me. I wouldn't feel upset. But that's why it's not a game changer, because like it's just a slightly better maybe version of a dozen other cards in green that do the same exact thing.
Yeah. If it became
whereas Farewell head and shoulders above the other 4 wipes do the same thing.
I don't even know. The point of the Farewell is like how it can actually shift the game into a thing that not everyone was really in the mood for. Like, oh my word, okay, so we're going to be here for 40 more minutes, I guess, is sort of the effect. There's an exhaustion about it that occurs. That I guess
versus Craterhoof just played the game.
Yeah, I suppose. If Craterhoof became one, I suppose I wouldn't bat an eye, but I don't think it needs to be there. But I also didn't think that Farewell needed to be there.
Sure.
I also think, like, I think the gap between a lot of these cards that people are throwing out, like Teferi's Protection and everything. I think the gap between Tef Pro and stuff like Clever Concealment or Flare of Fortitude is significantly smaller than people want to pretend it is. I don't think it's head and shoulders. It is the best, but I don't think the gap between 1 and 2, 3, 4 is all that big anymore.
Again, the problem with Teferi's Protection is it's 3 mana instead of 4. At 4 mana, it wouldn't. That's Clever, a lot more.
Clever Concealment and Flare of Fortitude being effectively free for a lot of decks, though.
It can be, sure, yeah.
That's where I'm like, oof, I don't think that gap is as big as.
Yeah.
The Teferi's Protection is so much. It is so versatile in terms of like the way you can use it offensively, defensively. Like, but yes, it's still again one of those cards that like if it was $2 and if it wasn't a game changer, you'd put it in every deck.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not the best. I'm just saying I think the gap is
getting smaller.
If there was a bunch, I feel like if there was a bunch more really great white cards, it might not be on the list. Which is probably why Mana Drain is not on the blue list.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of green cards on there, but I still think that the Great Henge probably should be a game changer.
Again, I love that we disagree. I disagree strongly on that one.
It depends what you're like. What is your metric for a game changer? I have a lot of decks where I'm not running, like, even if I had Great Henges, and I'm fairly certain I have at least 1 or 2 that I'm not playing that I picked up at some point. I'm not running them because it's not a great fit for that particular deck.
Yeah.
Versus Heroic Intervention's a great fit for every deck, or Teferi's Protection's a great fit for every one of my decks. Now, is that a metric? I don't know, but like it's something I do consider when it comes to something like Great Henge.
I think so. Yeah, that's roughly the same way that I feel. Yeah.
And I guess look at like Serra Sanctum. There's only one certain kind of deck you're running Serra Sanctum, and it's still a game changer because it's so good in that kind of deck. So
Golos not unbanned. Good grief! Thank goodness. What do you mean not? I don't want that unbanned. Golos was a.
Man, I saw so many Golos like. Maybe they've made it safe by printing so many busted 5-color commanders that it's no longer the default best option, but I don't I don't know.
That could be true. That like Joda's in that class of just like why for me personally. But yeah, but even just based off of we had that great big Ultimate Data episode showing like Golos's absolute domination of like always being in the top 10 and never once faltering from that position until it was banned. It was just like, oh yeah, kind of an issue.
King Arachnus, I think you're a cop for saying that not is probably fine.
I mean, there's conversation to be had around the legends for sure, because like the legends are, there could be an entirely different list of legends than game changers. Like once you know that that's in the zone, you know what you're in for is kind of the idea. That's why they've removed some of the legendary game changers that were previously on there, right? Sorry, dog barking. Dan has cat meowing. I have dog barking.
Yeah.
Coming down, girl. Nope. Sorry.
Makeshift. We've been talking with chat most of the time. Yes, we already talked about hybrid. We're all glad that it's staying where it is.
Yeah, very, very, very much.
Why is Grand Arbiter a game changer still?
Because it makes games miserable.
Yeah.
People do run removal, which is why Heroic Intervention is a game changer in your mind. I don't know. I
mean, there's an example of a card where like it has no business being in 2, so it being a game changer keeps it as 2. In 3, it's forcing you to make a tough choice. If you want to run Grand Arbiter, you're limiting yourself to what of the really great blue and white cards you can run. And in bracket 4, it's not a problem because it's free for all. Like I feel like that's kind of a great spot for it there. Having it as a game changer does all of the things you want to have done with Grand Arbiter. It keeps it in an appropriate space. Same with Turgid.
And it puts pressure on with a lot of game changers. Like especially ones that are spells versus permanents. The game changer, like you have that one interaction point, and then like you have to work to make it happen again. With permanents that are game changers, like Grand Arbiter, it puts pressure on the entire game, and it warps how you play the entire game. Versus, I do this thing, and like there's this one moment, and then like we move on.
Mm-hmm.
And having permanents like that like put pressure on the game, like I'm fine with those being game changers.
And thank you 8000s for the comment on the hybrid video. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And also, I know that your username is different than 8000s, but I'm gay, so I can't read it. Thank you for getting my joke, Dana. Thank you. Wooburger King, I generally follow your comment just there. Urza and Jin staying as game changers. Jin Gataxias feels to me like one that I was like, I didn't mind it being there, but I also understand it. And it is the kind of thing that, like, since the change, I kind of forgot about, which does indicate to me, like, how okay that is. If I've kind of forgotten about it, then that means that there's a benignness to it all. So,
I mean, I like the approach of, like, equipping players, too, to, like, oh, you have an Urza deck? Let's talk about it so I can opt out if I don't like what I hear.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind necessarily if there was, like, a list of, like, keep your eye on it commanders. But then again, people probably like each have their own individual ones, and hashing that out doesn't seem worth Wizards or the Commander format panel's time to hammer out another one of those. So like, but having like that list in your own mind is probably all that you need, I suppose, right? So, but yeah, Urza's definitely definitely one of those. Yuriko feels like one of those. Kennen, one of those. To me, Joda is another one of those. Yeah.
Prime time. Someone just asked about prime time again. Ethan tells me. I will. I guess. I don't think prime time should be unbanned. Period. But I will make an argument in favor of prime time because Ethan mentioned if you got to play it back in their heyday, the less you want them back, and that's true. An argument in favor of primetime is part of the reason it was so miserable, and anyone who didn't play back then probably doesn't realize this. Back then, the legend rule applied to the entire board. So, like, if someone played a legend that had the same name as your commander, it was the same card, they could kill your commander. And a lot of people in blue ran clones and clone effects, specifically because of the utility of I can kill your commander with this clone, or I can clone something cool. Or clone your commander and kill your commander at the same time. Clones were super, super good at that point in time. And prime time was legal. So like,
and Jedi Navigator, Dana.
Yeah. Deadeye was a menace too. So you had a bunch of like primetime. Not that it's not a great card on its own, but like the way the game functioned then isn't the way it functions today. And you wouldn't have so many clones just accidentally being in decks because they were amazing kill spells. They could also copy primetime. So that is, I guess, a point in defense of primetime. I still don't want it unbanned, but in the interest of fairness, it's worth noting that would be a definite difference in how it was way back in the day.
Discussion point.
I mean, plus like everybody always talks about like, well, what about primetime with Deadeye Navigator? Yeah, like that's a synergy. When was the last time you saw Deadeye Navigator?
2013, Deadeye Navigator was in every blue deck, and I have not seen one in a couple of years now.
It's a very 2013 card.
Yep.
I don't think the last time that I saw a Deadeye Navigator was like pre-COVID, genuinely.
And I think it's still a good card. I just think it's one of those things that like people, they did the thing and they got bored of it, and now people have kind of forgot about it, and that's just not a thing people do anymore.
Mr. Night Road, are there bracket 4s that don't use tutors? Yeah, I've 2 bracket 4 decks that aren't using tutors because I've taken all shuffling out of my decks this year. Mimiplasm and Conrad. And the reason I still think that they are bracket 4s, for one of them, Mimiplasm is still playing a ton of other game changers in that deck, so it's definitely above that threshold. But also the play pattern that Mimiplasm can fall into is the type of thing where I could create a Tyrannax Rex, which has haste and ward 4 and trample, and give it like Lord of Extinction levels of extra +1 counters that are on it, to the point that it is just 1-hit KO lethal, and I might be able to do that as early as turn 4. That's not the kind of thing that feels appropriate to me at bracket 3. So even though I'm not playing tutors, yeah, I definitely think that that belongs in the bracket 4 space. We were kind of talking about like high 4s and low 4s a little bit earlier on, but yeah.
Neither
Ethan Towsley, I also missed the tuck rule, and I thought it was going to be a lot more important to keeping. Granted, it was changed back when like Prosh, Perforos, and a bunch of those like problematic and hard to get rid of commanders were around. Unfortunately, the solution for that we have these problematic commanders we got to take care of, Wizards' response was, what if we just made every commander problematic? That was how they made the tuck rule irrelevant.
That's funny.
I just checked. Both my bracket 4 decks don't have tutors. Reki's only at 2 game changers. There are 4 in Kedis and Crom, but no tutors. Ristic, Study Jessica's Will, Fierce Guardianship, and Ancient Tomb.
And that the Kedis and Crom deck also has that gameplay pattern of just like, you did not even know that this game was going to be over at the time that it is. Yeah. And that's kind of the...
And it's not, and I don't want one card. I want any combination of 3 or 4 different like buffs in that deck, and like a tutor just wouldn't fix that.
I understand for sure, yeah. Because that's the real thing about a bracket 4. It isn't just a couple of these individual cards. I believe that there are bracket 4 decks that could exist without any game changers at all. That would still be like an issue. Like an Anya Falconwrath Madness combo deck, for instance. You could probably pull that off without having any game changers in it, and it would still probably be absolutely devastating.
Yep.
Someone had mentioned the Griselbrand was brought up as a card that they were thinking about unbanning, but they chose not to. And they acknowledge that this is of the cards that have been discussed, a tremendous risk giving people access to this one. So why even consider it? Like at bracket 3 and above, is it really out of the question? Is like on their minds here. I'm glad it stayed where it's at, but I appreciate the conversation they're having around it.
But something best in class.
Yeah, there's so many, like, it doesn't necessarily even worry me in the 99, but it's just maybe the best thing you could go grab and like Entomb Reanimate, or go grab and play for free on your Kalia deck, or it's just so many places it's like the best thing you can do.
If they unban Griselbrand before prime time, I will actually crash out is a really funny sentence.
Yes, 100%. I
don't know how I feel there. The risk to me there still feels like a whoa. Every Kalia deck doesn't need help. Right. Is kind of still where I'm at.
Every Kalia deck, I also think it becomes a problem in CEDH.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But you know, I'm no foremost expert in that field, but it feels still to me like kind of like I'd have my eyes. That would have been a much bigger tone for me. If that had been unbanned today, I would have not been nearly as relaxed. That would have been a huge question mark to me. So I feel like that needs further vetting. Someone said Iona should have been freed. Iona's on my list of cards that I think would be safe at bracket 3 and higher, and I feel the same way about Sundering Titan, which auto slots to me in bracket 4. But you know, they're going gradual. Really seems to be the tone of the day. Some folks have even noted this as like sort of a nothing burger announcement, which I don't think is how I feel, because like confirmation that they didn't change anything on hybrid mana is a nice thing to have seen. There was like a nervous tension in the air for me about that. So a nothing burger was still a satisfying meal to me today. It was still a burger.
I do think, I'm going to guess this is not the last unban we'll see this year. Like I said, I think it wouldn't surprise me to see them trickle these out. I don't think maybe a Griselbrand, but like you mentioned, Sundering Titan. Would not surprise me to see a June BNR roll around. They're like, Sundering Titan is unbanned for all the same reasons that you know, Biorhythm wasn't a problem, or World Fire wasn't a problem, or whatever.
Oh, Cookie's Catbug, bracket 4 Celis without any game changers because she churns through the deck so quick. Yeah, I tried building her as a bracket 2. There's no way she's bracket 2. She's nuts. She's wild. She wheels so fast through the deck, it's insane.
I have that Precon, and I've wanted to play a little bit more with it. I've only played it with Terra at the front.
Yeah, I built Sellers as a Domino
Those
Reanimator.
Precons they all were so fun though.
Yeah, I like that environment a lot. The Titus, blah, 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 that Precon is especially fun to me. Although I still have the Precon put together. I might be taking the Farewell out just to be like announcing the type of game I want to play.
I didn't have Farewell in any decks just because I didn't think it. I felt like it was too easy. If that makes sense.
I didn't have it just because I didn't want to spend 6 mana on that.
Yeah, well, sure. That's kind of the weird thing about,
like, I'd rather spend 5 mana on a
one-sided
board.
Yeah. Well, I already felt like Austere Command was maybe too good. No, I don't think it should be a game changer. No. I'm just saying, like, I would feel like, man, Austere Command is, every time I cast Austere Command, it's so heavily in my favor. Because you can tweak it to be heavily in your favor and run it in decks that, you know, don't run some kind of a type, and like just you can make it be such a good card. And I was like, why did we get a much better Austere Command? That's insane.
And that's kind of the weird thing about Farewell, like you were just saying, Matt, is like I also don't like playing Farewell because I want my board wipes to be the one-sided thing. I want them to break parity in some way so that I can push a potential final advantage into a win. But that is kind of the thing that like makes Farewell so strange within the format, is that it is an equivalent thing, but it also is an exhausting, annoying thing. It's like cumbersome. And not even just a nuisance, it is a cumbersome card. People see Farewell and they're like, ugh, and their love of the game leaves. And that, if anything, feels like the thing that they were actually checking about. Like, the Game Changer list is here to make sure that when you see it, you don't fall completely out of love with the concept of Magic the Gathering, which of the cards, Farewell runs the risk of maybe doing. Even then, it's not the card that I would have put on the Game Changers list, but like that emotion is the point of regulating, right? Is the type of thing that we want to make sure that we enjoy the cards that we see, and that is a card that is a black hole for joy. So.
Yeah, if Gavin had called me up last week and said like, "Hey Dana, what, you know, give me a list of 30 cards to add to the Game Changer list," I don't think it would have made my list of 30. But at the same time, when it's on the list, my response was like, yeah, I'm fine never, seeing that card less.
Pink Panther, that's a good point. How I'm describing Farewell is how some people feel about Ristic Study. I think also some people love Ristic Study. I don't know of a ton of people who love, like, a ride or die for Farewell. But that's a perfectly fine point, and that's why it sounds like a lot of people were wondering whether Ristic would have been banned. Like, I'm not going to bat for Ristic Study. I really can't. So that's a perfectly good point.
Yeah. And again, if you want to put your conspiracy theory hats on, the Ristic Study is a card that sells packs.
A lot of packs.
Yep. And I'm not sure.
A lot of packs.
So.
But by that they're like.
But Mana Crypt did too. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cards that sell packs, but like, thankfully they're walking that very fine line between this sells a lot of packs and this is just not healthy for any level of the game.
Someone asked if we'd mentioned Lutri. We did earlier on in the stream. I don't know that we can rehash everything here, but overall we're like, okay, sure. Hope that this communicates as easily as they want it to. Yeah. I think you might have
Lutri
something, Dana, sorry.
I've already forgot what it was.
Okay, I'm sorry if I interrupted you. Sorry there.
No.
I to be fair, I also did forget that Lutri was unbanned because nobody cares.
Daniel Holt is really happy.
That's it. But like,
yeah. There's a lot of people that are like excited to have it as a commander because they want to build a cute deck, and I get that. So
honestly, I'm kind of here for that.
For those people.
I kind of want to play against a Lutri commander deck now. Actually, that sounds funny.
Yeah. Yeah,
but like if you want to put a Reverberate in your command zone, then like,
yeah, that sounds good.
That's all good.
That seems like a great use of your command zone.
Or build an Otter deck or whatever it is, and I guess we have another one we got in Bloomburrow that could do that job. But good for those people.
Since we play so much commander, have we ever encountered decks that use companions? Absolutely. I've almost never seen a cat deck without Arabo. For instance.
Yes.
Like that one's constant. And I've seen several dinosaur decks with Kahira as well. Sorry, cat deck without Arabo. A Rabo deck without Kahira is what I meant to say. And then I've seen Kahira in dinosaur decks as well. I imagine we'll see it in a couple of elemental decks too, because it can hit a couple of those different types. I've played against someone who has Gyruda as a companion, and I've actually been considering moving my Vohar deck into a Gyruda companion deck as well.
I've seen a couple different folks with that Gyruda. It's a Gyruda clone deck.
Yeah.
It's kind of miserable to play against just because it's so time consuming.
Sure.
I mean, it's just a time suck is the problem. It's not like it does anything controlling or this problem. It's just like it takes a ton of time for all the actions to happen. So I've seen that one a lot. I've seen Yorion, not Yorion. Is that Yorion the Blink one?
It is, but it requires a higher deck size.
It can't be a companion, but it can be in the
in the 99,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've also seen Luris with Ailey, Eternal Pilgrim before, and there's some other 2-mana legend that I've seen with a Luris companion as well. So I've seen Luris a handful of times too.
It's crazy the difference in power and Luris in Commander compared to.
It had to be like
I've seen
Banned in Vintage, didn't it? Like,
yeah.
Amalia, thank you, Cactus Evergreen. It was an Amalia deck. Thank you.
I've seen a few Umori decks, Umori companion decks.
Yeah,
those are always interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
I'm kind of curious. EDH Rec has a companions page. What are the most popular companions? I just want to check it real quick.
It has to be a Rabo, right?
Not Arabo's
the yes.
Yeah.
Jahira, yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so Kahira has 2,400 decks that are like identified definitively. I would wager there's a lot more than that, but they just haven't been specifically labeled as such. And so then it's hard to, like, we don't want to speak for anyone's deck. It has to be like deliberately labeled. So the next most popular one is actually Gigantha, which makes a lot of sense. I'm recognizing now, yes, I have seen Gigantha in the companion zone before, because it's that of the conditions that are here to meet, Gigantha's not that hard, just really not that hard at all.
Didn't Jim have an Obosh? It was like, I thought he had like that 1-drop deck that had Obosh as the companion.
I believe he did, and actually I put Obosh as my companion when I had my Greven deck together as well.
Yeah.
And I've seen a few Obosh decks just as the commander.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah, Obosh is fine.
It's damage doubling. Yeah, it's just perfectly good.
I wanted to make, back when I had my AC deck, and then it was also Coma, I wanted to make that a Karuga companion deck, but I was just like, no, even that restriction, like the deck is still just a face roll.
I built Rune at one point, right when Companions came out, Rune, and I put Karuga in there, and that was pretty good. But, and I know that, Rachel Weeks has her Hippos deck with Feldergriff, and I think that's Karuga Companion as well. So yeah, it's around here and there, but like it also, I'm glad it isn't super commonplace, because if it was commonplace, that would indicate that the restrictions are not tight enough, right? So
sure.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I don't have much else exciting to add at this point.
About that time, chaps.
Yeah. This has been an interesting one. Interesting update. It does feel very lateral move, which I think was kind of the same feeling as what we noticed last time when they changed a couple of things around or removed some stuff. I still have my eyes on Biorhythm. If there's any caution that I have, it's about that one. But I hope that I am proven wrong. They have demonstrated a lot of confidence here, and so I hope they're right about that.
Yep. Well, and if folks want to read, so I did put out an article that lined out with this. I'll put that in the chat for everybody if you want to check it out over on EDH Rec. I'm sure we'll have more content on the channel here for folks too. So,
yeah. I haven't looked to see if Architect actually has the game changer and stuff updated yet.
Yes, they are. They are good to go.
Yeah. All right. Well, enjoy your otters, everybody, and go Hawks. We won the Super Bowl. As you can imagine, I did not get a whole lot of sleep, so I'm going to try and catch up on that.
I have no voice today just because I was yelling at the screen last night.
Yeah. Kind of a game of
it was a good Super Bowl. Any Super Bowl the Patriots lose is a good Super Bowl. And like who very well could become like the new most famous Magic player, arguably, is Leonard Williams. Got himself a ring.
We also had someone in the Olympics that was a Magic player too. I think that.
Yeah, the figure skater gal.
Yep.
I was just tuning into the Bad Bunny concert, to be honest. So.
Listen, my wife and her gays were all doing the same thing. So like, it's a trend.
Yeah, I mean, Lady Gaga's dress was superb. So yeah, we all kind of lost our minds. But then yeah, no, it was.
I saw somebody put out a meme that said her name from now on will be Lady Gagita.
Yes, yeah, I saw that same one too.
For some reason, whenever I see her, I always just in Matt Berry's voice. For some reason, I just hear Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga.
That's because that's what Zach Galifianakis did. He was in some movies like, "Oh, you're dressed up weird like Lady Gaga."
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I don't know why I hear it in Matt Berry's voice then, but like I just hear that for some reason in my head.
We all do that. My old pupper Monty. I whenever I would do like a dog voice. His dog voice was J. Jonah Jameson for some freaking reason. Like we just bring me more bone treats and Spider-Man pictures. It was a fun time. All right, yeah. Hope folks have enjoyed little reaction stream to this stuff. Overall, chill mood in the air, which is a nice vibe to have. We've kind of needed that for these, I think, a little bit. So
very much.
I think for the future, when there are things along this lines, we are going to try to do a little live show.
Yeah, it's a nice cadence.
Like this as well. So, I mean,
well, hopefully people are in Vegas.
Oh yeah,
do a live show for them there too.
That is the plan.
MagicCon Vegas coming up in a few months. It's only like it's less than 3 months away, and that's kind of wild to me because it's feel like it's been forever.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yeah, spring is. I keep being like, spring's almost here. It's February. It's mid-February. It's almost spring. The snows will be melting any day now.
I mean, it's supposed to be 70 degrees here. It's already 63 degrees right now.
We've got 40s coming next weekend, so that
it has sprung.
Take it. Yeah, good enough.
Cool. Well, we're gonna
probably
y'all.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think we're gonna continue talking about this in the Patreon chat a little bit too. So follow us there if you want to hear.
And
Patreon.com/CEDHRecast if you want to join that conversation.
And we should have a show going live if it hasn't already gone up today.
I think we were holding that one off. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. Yeah, that was a very playful headphone. I feel like your headphones have been kind of like dancing today, Dana.
Yeah. So my son has stolen my headphones that like are the ones that actually fit in my ear. So the only ones I have are these old ones that have the perfectly round earbuds that just don't stay in. I need to just get a new pair of headphones.
Yeah. Cool. Well,
all right, folks.
Cheers, everybody.
Peace out, y'all.
See you next time.